Robert Burrich is suing his ex-fiancée, Carla Jones, for money loaned and forged checks. Carla is countersuing, claiming Robert made false accusations to her probation officer.
Mr. Burrich, Miss Jones used to be your living girlfriend?
She was my fiancée.
And according to your complaint, she owes you some money. First for a loan, for insurance, well over a year ago. And then you claim that at some point she forged some checks.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you claim she's got some of your personal property.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Jones says none of them were loans. She did, in fact, sign your name to checks. You knew about that. You did not report those forged checks, according to you, when you found out about them. But you continued to live together as a couple. But when you broke up, you, according to you, called her parole officer. You're on parole for something?
I'm off now.
And you called her parole officer to report the forged checks. Is that right?
Yes.
Why'd you do that for?
Because she was forging checks while on parole, and
No, look at me, look at me.
It was a violation.
Let's get a timeline.
It's a violation.
Mr. Burrich, listen to me. Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking.
Excuse me.
According to you, it was in October of 2004 that you found out that she had signed your name to some checks.
Yes.
How much in total were the checks that she signed?
$2,900.
And what were they for?
They were made out to her, signed by her, and cashed by her, and deposited to her account.
Okay. Now, when did you find out about these checks? So was that in October?
It was after she moved out in October.
So after you found out about these forged checks, how long did it take you to call her parole officer?
It took me until March of 2005.
Okay. Let's go. Checks, $2,900 worth.
No, nothing was stolen from him. No forged checks. We would pay our bills together. I would tally up how much utilities were or groceries, and I'd say, I need X amount of dollars. He'd say, okay, go ahead and get a check, write for that, deposit it in there, and pay the bills. And I'd
deposit it where?
Into my checking account. I'd always call him at work, or he would be home when we did it, and he would say, go put that in your checking account and then pay the bills, because I paid everything online.
What do you want parole for? Anything to do with checks?
I'm not on parole. I was on probation.
Probation for anything having to do with checks?
No, it was for a DUI.
Oh. Okay. How long were you living together?
About 2.5 years.
Who paid the bills, sir?
The arrangement was that I paid the rent because it was a considerable amount of money, and she picked up the tab for the utilities and the food.
What precipitated your leaving in October of 2004?
Well, the relationship was kind of going sour, and in August of 2004, we had been going to some counseling to see if we could work through some of the issues. And I realized in my heart that it just wasn't going to work out for me, that I wasn't going to be able to go through with the relationship. And of course, he was very upset. And I told him at the end of the lease, which was November 1st of 2004, that I'd be moving out by then and getting my own place.
Robert Burrich says ex-fiancée Carla Jones stole money by forging his check, countersuing, claiming Robert made false accusations to her probation officer.
Okay. When for the first time, Ms. Jones, did the plaintiff confront you about these checks?
Towards the end of the year after I had moved out. We were still talking to each other, and he would come over sometimes on the weekends, and I just felt really sorry for him.
Just tell me what he said to you about the checks.
He called me on the phone close to Christmas. I said I didn't want to see him anymore. I said, I don't want you coming over anymore. I don't want to see you at all. It's done. I don't even want to be friends with you. And that's when he threatened he was going to go to the police station and tell them that I forged these checks while we were together. And I said, you know, that's a lie. How can you go tell a lie like that? And he says, I can say whatever I want. And then in March, I finally just told him, I said, I can't see you anymore. We're kind of seeing each other on and off, on and off. Well, he told me he was going to go to the police and do this. So I guess the next day, which was March 14th.
So the first time he spoke to you about it was in December of 2004.
Threatening to do this.
On what date did you contact her probation officer?
It was the 15th of March.
What happened between December and March, sir?
I was investigating this.
You already knew about it, and you confronted her with them. And if you had been concerned that she had forged your name to checks and you felt that it was the right thing to do to notify her probation officer, why didn't you do it in December or January or February?
I was hesitant. I wanted the relationship to go on. During the counseling sessions, the counselor asked me, if I loved her, and I said yes, and the counselor asked her, did she love me? And she said she didn't know, and the counselor said, did you love him when you took that engagement ring? And she said, I don't know. And I wanted this relationship to last. It was very important to me. She was very important to me. And I figured that the less waves, the better the chances of the relationship working.
But it didn't work, sir.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. And the response to it not working is not to behave in a retaliatory way.
That's right.
The response to it not working is say, you went to counseling, she didn't deceive you. She said, we'll go to counseling, we'll see if we can get it to work. And she was being honest. She said, I don't know my feelings. She wasn't trying to be hurtful. If she wanted to be hurtful, she wouldn't have gone to counseling with you.
She deceived me when she accepted the engagement ring.
No, you know, you're talking about there's hard evidence and then there's soft evidence. You know, the divorce rate in this country is 52%. Now, all of those people who divorce, when they sit back, you know, a year later, 6 months later, 5 years later, they say, gee, I wonder if I really loved him. I wonder if I really loved her when I walked down the aisle. You know, or was it something else? It was, you got to get married, or, you know, I fell in love with the beautiful face, or I fell in love with the bank account, whatever it was. Was it really him? I'm really not sure. You know, I really don't know in my heart anymore. That's what people say to themselves.
It was the bank account.
Well, it's all a package. You know, she's an attractive lady, right?
Yes, she is.
She's a very attractive lady, well-spoken. Do you think that if she was an unattractive lady and not well-spoken, you would have been attracted to her? No. You may have gotten to know her better and said, gee, she's got a wonderful soul. But what attracted you to her initially was she's a pretty lady, she seems intelligent, and she's well-spoken, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Part of your package is that you had some dough. That's it. You just have to accept that. And you know, I'm not such a genius that I figured this out myself, because Donald Trump's wife was interviewed recently, and they said to her, would you be married to him if he wasn't Donald Trump, if he wasn't who he is? And she said, you think he'd be married to me if I didn't look like this? Do yourself a big favor. Put a period. It didn't work out. You both gave it your best shot. You should not have called a probation officer. It was a nasty thing to do. And you should not have waited to see the result of this counseling before you decided that what she did was criminal, because then I find your motives suspect.
The reason we actually separated was in August. I told her that her drinking had become a problem, and if she didn't stop drinking, we were not going to renew the lease and live together.
But even after that, you went to counseling with her, because according to you, you loved her.
I did love her.
What I'm telling you is, it didn't work out. That's very sad. Looks like a nice guy. I hope you find another nice one.
She's engaged to another guy already.
Well, then you should look up and say, thank you, God, I didn't make a mistake. Right? Instead of suing her. The case is dismissed, sir. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bourbon McDaniel is suing her daughter, Glenda Julius, for the cost of her granddaughter's funeral. Glenda says her mother is heartless.
Ms. McDaniel, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is really a simple one, and your complaint is that you made 2 loans to your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And she has not paid you back. Your daughter says that these were not loans, they were really gifts. But the matter becomes more complicated because of the nature of the loans that you claimed to your daughter. Miss Julius, you had a daughter who was murdered.
Yes, ma'am.
When was she murdered?
September 24th. She was found dead in her room.
In your home?
In our home.
Has the perpetrator of that murder ever been found?
There are 3 people apprehended as of right now for first-degree murder.
How old was your daughter? According to you, Miss McDaniel, you went to where your daughter was living, and your daughter did not have money for a burial.
That's right.
You agreed to loan her the money for the burial.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequently, your daughter, who was not happy staying in the same house where her daughter was murdered, which is quite understandable because people had not been apprehended at that time, asked if she could relocate. And you agreed to loan her some money.
Yes, ma'am.
So that she could relocate. What was the extent of those 2 sums of money? The funeral was how much?
$4,582.27.
And how much did you advance your daughter to relocate?
$1,487.68.
The matter becomes more complicated because at some point, Ms. Julius, you ascertained that there was a crime victims compensation that you could apply for.
The DA.
The DA
From Carroll County.
told you what?
Told me that there was a victims fund relief.
And what was it for?
It was for expenses for Jessica's death. And I have been making payments.
Just a second. Expenses for Jessica's death.
Yes.
Which included her burial.
Which my mother gave as a gift.
Listen to me very carefully.
Which included, yes.
So the state of Tennessee had a fund which provided for the survivors of victims of violent crime to give them money so that they could pay for burial.
Yes.
And other related expenses.
Yes.
You applied for that.
Yes.
And you got a check.
Yes.
How much was the check?
One was $5,300 and the other one was $1,024.
Can I see the paperwork surrounding those two checks, please?
There was a few gas expenses.
Can I see the paperwork for the...
This is exactly what
Bert, I'll take a
issued,
look
but
at
I
it.
have more different, I have receipts to where I have been paying my mother.
Just a second. They paid you $5,307.27 for the funeral. And then there were other related expenses, moving expenses. Are you telling me that you have proof that you gave some of this money to your mother?
Yes, I have.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have receipts. Here, this is it for money orders. She told me that her payments were 70 and 40. I talked to my sister Gail that's standing next to her over the telephone. She was in California. I talked to her and she said, have you been giving her money? I said, yeah. She told me 70 and 40 on her credit cards. And that's exactly, I've been giving her a little bit more.
Well, I see what you're talking about. You gave her $30, $40.
And it started on 11/3, excuse me.
I understand that, but these are very small amounts of money. When did you get the check from the state?
In April. She told me it was on credit cards, and as long as I was helping her out, there was no lump sum that I was supposed to give her. She knew I would have to go home. I have a headstone to purchase for my daughter, which is $910, and I'm working at a minimum wage job. I moved out because it was so unbearable to live with her in her house.
Let's go back a second. You got this money, which is about $6,500. What did you do with it?
I've been living on it, and also I have money set aside to buy Jessica's stone and money set aside to go home.
Well,
because
so
I cannot live.
Just a second. You just told me that the stone is $900.
$910.
Fine. And did you order it?
I've already talked to... Yes.
Don't play with
Yes.
it. Did you pay for it?
Not as of yet.
Why not?
Because she started this lawsuit.
What's the name of the company that's going to do the stone?
Memorial Gardens.
Well, you certainly have $900 for the stone because you got $6,500. And my problem with you, Mr. Julius, is, because this is not a very difficult case, whether your mother said to you, as you allege in your answer, it's the least I can do to give you the money for the funeral, right? That's what she alleges you said to her, or not. The good people of the state of Tennessee did not provide this money for you to live on. The good people of the state of Tennessee wanted to ensure that your daughter had an appropriate burial. So you cannot take their money and do what you want with it. You have to take their money and pay for her funeral. That's what it was earmarked for by the state. Because whether you and your mother, according to you, you colluded to defraud the state by her signing papers that said she's going to pay me back, and she really didn't mean that you were going to pay her back, that's a fraud on the state. I can't sanction that. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm working in a dry cleaners. I'm having trouble dealing with the public.
What kind of work did you do before your daughter's death?
I was working in a convenience store, third shift.
Your mother paid for the funeral. According to the claim that you put into the criminal injuries compensation claim for Jessica Dawn Julius, the funeral was $5,307.27. That's what you told the state, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the funeral was actually $45.82?
The difference was donations from the school where Jessica went.
What?
I have a paper that states each and every one that gave donation to funeral.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
The family that Jessica was, Lisa Stevens' family, were there and willing, and the whole town was willing to help out with this. My mother is the one that wanted me to move. I left everything I owned.
Listen to me. I'm not talking about the moving. I'm talking about the fact that you cannot take this money and live on it. I have to make a judgment whether the person who actually paid for the funeral, and that's your mother, or you who did not pay for the funeral, are the rightful recipients of this money from the state, which is earmarked for your daughter's burial expenses. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And there were some very nice people from the town who also sent checks in for the funeral. But that's not the issue. The issue really is a very simple one. Whether your mother, at the time that your daughter died, and I believe that she probably did, say to you, this is a terrible time. I don't want you to worry about the funeral. I'll take care of it. Because that's what a parent does. But then when you found out that there was a possibility, because you said that the district attorney told you that there was a fund, that was after your daughter was buried, correct?
Yes.
So after your mother laid out that money, and probably would not have sought to recoup it because you have limited circumstances, that'd be a fair statement. But after she found out that you were going to get this money from the state for the funeral, the right thing for you to do was to give it back to her.
I've been giving her close to $1,500.
No. That
so
may
far.
have been fine, Miss Julius, giving her $30, giving her $70, until you got $6,500. Once you got $6,500, you had to say, Mom, clean up the credit card, pay it off, because that's what this check was supposed to be used for.
Yes,
Do we
ma'am.
understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Let's not pursue this any further. Your family has had sufficient amount of sadness to last for a lifetime. So you have the money, and even if your mother is awarded the $5,000, you still have money left over for the headstone, and then some. Right? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Wayne Otis claims website owner Jamila Donaldson posted his picture on her website.
Mr. Otis, it is your claim that the defendant who runs a website embarrassed you on her website, and you want to be compensated.
Yes.
Ms. Donaldson said that, well, she didn't really embarrass you on the website. She's going to explain to me what the website is all about, but she said whether or not you were embarrassed, she is protected by the Constitution of the United States. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about this website.
But you want to know what happened that day, or how did I get to the website?
Well, why don't, if you don't really understand it, I'll let Ms. Donaldson explain the website to me.
Okay. The website is called hotghettomess.com. hotghettomess.com.
And what is its function?
Well, I started about 1.5 years ago, and the function was I was sort of looking at the images that were coming out of largely the African-American community, and I felt like we were bombarded with these negative images, this glamorization of thug life and thug living, the degradation of women, and just this obsession with all that is low and ghetto. So I thought that I would do the website as sort of a social commentary to say that this is not what we're supposed to be doing. We should not be promulgating these images.
Sounds like a laudable goal.
Yes, thank you. And so the website basically consists of people sending in pictures. And what I do is try to take a lot of images and put them in a context. I think we, in the media, and especially the young people with the videos and the movies, we see these images all the time, but no one puts into context and says, this is not good. This is not
Give me
positive.
an example.
I don't have anyone. Oh, well, yes. Okay, here's one.
All right, let me see it.
But I'll also say that in addition to showing hot ghetto mess, I counter that with not ghetto and images that we should strive to be more like. And I'm sorry, Mr. Bird. Here's some of the not ghetto. I sort of counter and try to give a balance. And I also have lyrics on there, lyrics that are being put out, and I contrast positive and negative lyrics. I do movies.
I got it. Just a second.
Sorry, I also have a mission statement.
Just a second.
Okay.
Just a second. I don't want to read your mission statement.
Okay, it's just posted on the website
I
so
see.
people know what I'm doing.
Okay. It's really a positive message that you're trying to present by showing Good examples of behavior, bad examples of behavior, good examples of images, bad examples of images. You don't select the pictures, with the exception of the fact that people send in pictures to you and you put them on the website and say, you're free to comment.
Right.
And somebody sent you in his picture.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did they get the picture from?
It was this online site we have in school. I'm a college student, and it's called Facebook. What it is, it's like a directory of students that go to various colleges.
So you sat for a photograph or submitted a photograph to this book, and from that book, somebody took out the picture and sent it to the defendant.
Yes.
So let me see your page that you're complaining about.
This right here is the profile of myself, and these right here are like the categories, like the people that were centered around mine. So I don't see anything positive around
Well,
those.
let me just see what yours is.
Okay. And it's a little log up there where they get to comment about the pictures.
So she posted this photograph,
Yes.
right? Well, what are you complaining about?
Because she posted my photograph with her company logo on it as if it was her picture. I don't belong on that picture with those people. I mean, look at the category that I'm in.
What category are you in?
I'm in a category called Playboys.
Mr. Rodas,
Yes, ma'am.
isn't it a bad picture? It's a very nice likeness, very sexy as a matter of fact. Look like a playboy. What's wrong with that?
I don't like the fact that she also gives them comments. I mean, it's negative comments. No one said anything good.
Well, that's not her fault. Nobody said anything good. But I wouldn't have said anything bad about this picture. If I would have looked at it, I would have said, gee, the handsome guy. Got a sort of a come-hither look. Mr. Rodas, I want you to lighten up a little bit, Mr. Rodas. I don't think, by the way, Ms. Donaldson, that your First Amendment argument is 100% valid because Mr. Rodas is not a public figure. But you don't say anything derogatory about him. Now, let me say that if she posted this picture of you and wrote, bank robber, pedophile, something that wasn't true and just nasty, I would mop up the floor with her and give you whatever you wanted. Because you are not a public figure and she can't print anything that's not true about you. But once you allow your photograph to be out there as part of a student profile, the internet is something that sort of gobbles up all the information that it can get. It's a sponge. I don't know much about the internet because I don't use that machine myself, but I know that you can find out what kind of microbes live 20,000 leagues under the sea, if anybody wants that information. All you have to do is log in the right whatever. So if once you put your picture out there in public space, and it is in public space if you put it out in a book, it might end up here. So you have to be careful. If this isn't a picture that you particularly liked, you shouldn't have put it in your college profile. Who selected the picture?
I did. I
right.
Loved that picture.
Well, if you didn't like the picture and if you thought it presented you in a bad light, then I wouldn't have selected this picture.
But I love that picture.
Good. I'm just saying, I don't think there's anything wrong with this picture. And all she's doing, Ms. Donaldson is doing, is saying, what do you think of this picture? Is this the way African-American males want to present themselves? I don't see anything wrong with this picture. Now, somebody may say, I'd rather see him in a cap and gown, you know? I would rather see Colin Powell. I mean, he's got a picture of Colin. But that's somebody's opinion. That's not her opinion necessarily. That's somebody else's opinion. I happen to agree with you. It's a nice picture. A lot of people saw it. Mm-hmm. Your friends, did they say to you, gee, that's a horrible picture that really depicts you in a terrible light?
No one said that.
No. I mean, you're not doing anything untoward in this picture. So my question is,
my basic thing was I sent her an email asking her to remove it. And when I found it, it was October 26th. And even as of this morning, when I was at the hotel, it's still there.
Now, she doesn't have to remove it. Would it be nice if she removed it if it bothers you?
Yes, it would.
Yeah. Now, we've gotten rid of the legal aspect of this case. Now we're getting to what I consider the moral aspect of the case, and since I have other things to do today, I'm going to address that relatively briefly. If Mr. Otis is troubled by this picture, and I guarantee you there are lots of other pictures that are just waiting to be published on your website, why don't you just take it off?
Because I felt like that would
be a dangerous precedent, then everyone would email me and just tell me to take their pictures down.
Well, they might.
Then hotghettomess.com wouldn't exist.
There are people out there who think that dressing inappropriately, calling attention to themselves, negative attention to themselves is the way to go. They're not going to be angry. I guarantee you will get all of the negative examples that you want on your website, because there is no want in this country for stupid people. They're all around us. Touch every third person, you're going to find an idiot. So you don't have to worry that you're not going to have plenty of product. Mr. Otis doesn't want to be used as an example. So when are you going to remove it?
I'll remove it as soon as I get back to my computer.
And I know that with you, that's going to be sometime today.
Yes.
Good. Satisfied?
Not really.
Well, that's too bad. You better get satisfied. That's all. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Laura Howlett is suing her ex-boyfriend, William Lloyd, for a loan to pay his taxes. William claims the money was actually a gift.
How old are you, Mr. Lloyd?
38.
What kind of work do you do?
I drive a truck.
How long have you been doing that for a living?
7 years.
Before that, what did you do?
Mechanic, auto mechanic.
Always make a living?
Yes, ma'am.
You have any family?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you have?
2 sons,
How old are they?
18 and 16.
Have you supported them over the years?
Yes, ma'am.
They don't live with you.
No, ma'am.
Pay your taxes?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this particular occasion, you owe the IRS some money,
Yes, ma'am.
which means at some point you didn't pay all the taxes you were supposed to pay.
Somehow, during my W-2s, my dependents got messed up. That's why I owe taxes.
Well, your dependents didn't get messed up. You've always had only 2 sons, right? They weren't messed up.
No, ma'am. Talk about on the regular taxes you filled at the beginning of the year. I had more dependents on it than what I should have. That's why I owe taxes.
Well, when you had more dependents, where did you get them from?
Ma'am, I only have 2 children.
Right. So how could you have more dependents?
I filled out the paper wrong for my taxes.
Fine. And whose problem was that?
That was mine.
And whose mistake was that?
That was mine.
Whose bad was that?
That was my bad.
Now, Miss Howlett, this is your case.
Yes.
This used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And he had this debt to the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
You paid the debt, according to the IRS, for him.
I did.
And you want him to pay you back. And Mr. Lloyd says it was very nice of you to pay that debt, but it was a gift. You took that upon yourself, and he has no intention of paying you back.
Not at all. No.
So, how long did you know him before you paid this debt?
We started dating in May 2006, and I paid the debt August 24th, 06.
You a working lady?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a dispatcher.
Trucks?
Yes, for a petroleum company.
Is that the trucking company he works for?
No.
No, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
Do you ever watch this program?
I do.
When you watch this program and you see women standing in the position that you're in,
I know.
and you say to yourself, how could they be so stupid? What did they see in him? Why would they want to take their hard-earned money and give it to that piece of nothing? I would never do anything so stupid. Didn't you say that to yourself?
I did, and I'd say it to myself now, about myself.
So tell me how it came about.
We started dating May 06. We got serious pretty quick. I discussed with him moving in with me when his lease was up September 15th.
Okay.
Yes. He kept getting the bill from the IRS that he had made a payment plan.
He made a payment plan with the IRS?
With the IRS, yes.
What was your payment plan with the IRS?
$100 a month.
That sounds great, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened?
I was making $100 payments a month.
And were you living together at the time?
By the second payment, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And she saw you making this $100 payment.
Yes, ma'am. When I would go over to her house, I would give her $100 cash.
So you would give her $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am. And then she would pay it over the computer. Just simpler than send it by.
To the IRS?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
good. Go ahead.
And then the third payment, of which we're here for now, for I don't know why, she was on a computer, and I asked her if she would make my payment for me. And she said, yeah, when she got done what she was doing. And so I was sitting on the couch watching TV, so I said, I'll be up there in a few minutes, and I'll give you the money. So I watched TV, and I went upstairs and gave her the $100. And I don't know exactly what she verbatim, but she had paid it off, my whole entire balance that I owed the IRS. I never asked her to, I never begged her to, I never even brought it up.
Good. So you had the $100 in your hand.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the $100?
I gave her the $100.
Did she take it?
I believe so.
Oh, so she paid the $21.97 to the IRS, and you gave her $100, which she accepted because you were paying her instead of paying the IRS.
Right, for my $100 payments.
Right. Keep going.
After I gave her the $100, I assumed that she made a $100 payment, just like she had done for me before.
Right.
And then turned around and she had paid it off.
So?
I never asked her to. I never...
No. And what happened the next month? Did you give her $100 next month?
No, ma'am.
Did she ask you for it?
That month, I believe I had moved out by that time.
Oh, did you try to give her the $100?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I didn't.
You gave her the $100 the month before when she had paid off the whole thing, and she took it?
I gave her the $100 before I knew that she had paid off
Yeah,
in
but
full.
sir, then you understood, because she accepted the $100, that instead of her going on her computer every month to pay the IRS, she paid it off, and you would pay her back the $100 a month.
No, ma'am. I paid her $100, assuming that she was making a $100 payment for me.
But she accepted it. Didn't you hear me?
Yes. But I had made the payment after the fact. She had told me she had paid it off. If I asked her to pay it off, why would I set up a payment plan with her when I already had it with the IRS? You understand what I'm saying?
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am.
Who screwed up with the IRS?
Most of the people at the IRS.
No. Who screwed up with the people at the IRS? I'm talking to you. Who screwed up with the IRS? Say, I did, Your Honor.
As far as making these payments?
Who screwed up with the IRS? And
I did, Your Honor.
That's right. And who owed the IRS money?
I did at the time.
And who was it that spent the money that they didn't pay in taxes that they should have? Who would that be?
That would be me.
Pay your own taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
You do a crime, you pay your own penalty. You owe the IRS money. There are certain things that are positive in this life, sir. One is death.
And taxes.
And taxes. Everybody has to pay them. What kind of pain is there if somebody else pays your taxes? Do not answer me, sir. If you get away without paying your taxes, sir, by saying, well, she paid it off, so I don't have to pay the IRS back $100 a month until they're all paid off, what lesson does that teach you? What lesson does that teach you?
That you shouldn't let nobody else try to do a favor for you and pay your own bills. I never asked her to do this.
Are you paying careful attention to me,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am, I am.
Lloyd? You don't ask somebody to do your prison time for you, and you don't ask somebody else to pay your taxes for you. And if they do so because you had a payment plan with the IRS, and somebody says, look, I'm going to be a nice person, instead of us going through this drill every month, you give me the $100, which she took, clearly, when she paid off the whole bill, in anticipation of every month you paying her $100. Instead, you moved out. You owe $2,097 because you paid the $100. Goodbye. Listen to me. Watch better next time.
I will. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Jason Wilson says ex-boyfriend Jorge Mina owes for damages from an assault. Jorge says Jason called his mom a bad name.
Mr. Wilson, according to the complaint that I read, you and Mr. Mania had been partners for some time.
That's correct.
And after the two of you went your separate ways, you had asked Mr. Mania to take care of your cat.
Temporarily, yes.
You ascertained at some point that Mr. Mania had taken your cat to the pound, and you went over to his home that he shared with his mother. I assume this is your mother,
Yes.
sir? In order to retrieve the cat's cage or box so that you could go and retrieve the cat from the pound.
Correct.
And at that time, according to you, Mr. Mania assaulted you. You have medical bills, you have lost wages, and you want to be compensated for the assault. Mr. Mania says that you became aggressive with his mother and that he was merely defending his mother.
That is true.
When did you and Mr. Mania officially break off your relationship?
It would be in September of 2004.
But you remain friends?
I would say acquaintances.
When did you ask him to take care of your cat?
That would be in August of 2005.
You called him?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And what did he say when he called you?
Well, when he called me, first of all, the cat to me was, he told me...
Don't tell me what it was. Just tell me what he said to you, Mr. Mania.
The cat's alive. It's not dead anymore. It's alive. I want you to take care of the cat because I can't take care of it anymore. And I'm like, the cat's alive. What? For the past 6 months.
Well, now it was alive. So he
Yeah.
asked you to take care. Shh. So he asked you to take care of the cat.
Yes.
Did he tell you why?
He couldn't keep it where he was living at that time.
Did he say it was a temporary arrangement?
Yes.
And you said okay?
No.
What did you say?
I said my mom didn't want any more cats. I already had one cat. I told him, don't bring the cat over. He kept insisting, I need the cat over. I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring it. I'm not going to be home. It used to be my baby, but not anymore.
So he brought the cat over anyway?
Yes.
Who was home when he brought the cat over?
My brother.
Is that right, sir?
Yes.
And you left the cat in August of 2005. Do you remember when in August?
August 27th.
How long did you keep the cat, sir?
2 days.
And what did you do with it?
Well, I told him to go and pick it up. I gave him more than 24 hours. My mom kept pushing me, take the cat, take the cat. There's too many cats here, take the cat. I told him, you have until Monday before I take it. That happened on Saturday night. I found the cat on Sunday morning, 1 in the morning when I came back. It was in the backyard with nobody's permission. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
I don't care whether you're in shock or not. We're going to get through this part of the story and get to the assault in a minute. So you brought the cat to the pound 1 or 2 days later.
Yes.
When did he come for the cat's cage?
Monday night.
So now tell me what happened, Mr. Wilson, when you got there on the 29th of August, 2005, to pick up your cat's cage.
Okay. I originally went to Jack in the Box where him and his brother work, and I asked for more items other than the cage. However, the cage was what his brother originally did not bring and said, okay, well, George gets off at 10 o'clock.
Could we get over to who was home at the 29th when you went there to pick up the cage?
George and his mother.
And what happened?
They had just pulled up into the driveway, and I proceeded to walk towards the entrance of the gate to the driveway, and his mother became very upset because she never liked me and started yelling at me
What
in
did she
Spanish.
say?
I don't know what she was saying because she was speaking Spanish, and I just avoided her. George proceeded to walk towards inside the garage to get the cage for me, and his mother kept yelling and yelling. I did get out of line, and all I did say is I called her the B word. And so George came and charged after me and said, what did you call my mom? Striking me several times.
Where did he strike you?
In my face and in my head, on my head. And I ran towards the main street, and he ran after me. He caught me, basically, and started hitting me more, caused me to fall. I passed out. A neighbor seen me and came to my attention and waited for the paramedics to get there.
You have a hospital report?
I do.
You have a police report?
I do have some memos. It states that there was a police report made.
Let me see, please.
And this is the original hospital where it says alleged assault, where I was
Let me just see it.
there for 2 days.
How long were you out of work?
It was from August 29th to September 29th, so a month.
Were you ever taken into custody, Mr. Mania? Any police officer ever speak to you?
Oh, they did at the house, but that's about it.
Did you pursue this matter with the police, Mr. Wilson?
I did not proceed to convict or press charges due to I didn't want to ruin it for him on becoming a legal resident, and that's why I didn't.
Step up, please. Your mother speaks Spanish?
Yes.
Can you tell me your name?
Yes, Your Honor. Samantha Lubrani. I'm a certified court interpreter.
Mrs. Mania, what did you say when he came to pick up the cat's cage?
¿Qué le dijo usted al señor Wilson cuando él llegó a buscar la jaula del gato?
Estaba dentro de mi propiedad.
I was on my property.
Sin mi permiso.
He was on my property without my permission.
Yo le dije, ¿qué estás haciendo aquí?
I said to him, what are you doing here?
Él dijo, vengo a recoger esto, el cage del gato.
He said, I'm coming to pick up this, the cat's cage.
Se lo había dejado Jorge horas antes fuera de la casa.
We had left it for him. Jorge had left it for him several hours earlier outside the house.
I asked you what you said to Mr. Wilson.
Oh, al señor Wilson.
¿Qué estás haciendo aquí?
What are you doing here?
What else did you say to him?
¿Qué más le dijo usted a él?
Nada más.
Nothing else.
I don't think I believe you.
Parece que no le creo a usted.
I don't think I believe you.
Parece que no le creo a usted.
No hablo inglés.
I don't speak English.
Then how do you know what he said to you?
Entonces, ¿cómo sabe usted lo que él le dijo a usted?
Únicamente le dije, ¿qué estás haciendo aquí? Mi hijo le dijo en inglés. únicamente.
All I said to him was, "What are you doing here?" And my son spoke to him in English. That was all.
And I'm telling you that I don't believe you.
Y yo le estoy diciendo a usted que no la creo.
I believe that you got into
Yo creo que usted sí
a shouting match with Mr. Wilson
tuvo una discusión a gritos con
because you
él.
were unhappy that he brought the cat to your house in the first place.
Que le había dejado el gato al principio.
You were unhappy with his previous relationship with your son.
Relación que él había tenido con su hijo.
No.
No.
No es cierto.
That's not true.
No.
Did Mr. Wilson call you a...
El señor Wilson sí le dijo.
Yes.
You want me to believe that Mr. Wilson called you a... because you said to him, "What are you doing here?"
Solamente.
Eso tendría que
That just to answer my question. You want me to believe
Usted quiere
that
que yo
Mr.
crea
Wilson called you a name,
le dijo esa palabra.
and all you said to him was,
Que usted le había dicho.
"What are you doing here?"
Fue, ¿qué estás haciendo aquí?
Estaba dentro de mi propiedad.
I was on my property.
That's not what I asked you.
Fue lo que le pregunté.
She's speaking Spanish. You do understand Spanish, don't you?
Sí, entiende el español.
Yes.
She speaks in the same dialect that you do?
Mismo dialecto que usted. Diciendo, yes,
Then
yes.
answer my question.
Entonces contésteme la pregunta.
You want me to believe
Quiere que yo
that
crea
Mr.
que
Wilson
el señor Wilson
called you a
le
name,
llamó a usted
and
esa
all
palabra,
you said to him was,
cuando lo único que usted
"What
quería
are you doing here?"
¿Qué estás haciendo aquí?
Es lo cierto.
It's the truth.
No. No. Now let's hear from your son. You got where I'm going, Mr. Mania?
¿Entiende lo que estoy diciendo?
Yes.
Sí.
I want you to understand this, Mr. Mania. When somebody lies to me once, I tend to find suspect everything else that they say to me.
I understand that.
So now I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
Did your mother just tell me the truth?
Yes, she did.
Then you and I are going to have a problem, Mr. Mania, with the remainder of your testimony, sir, because I don't believe your mother and I don't believe you. Did your mother like Mr. Wilson? Did she like Mr. Wilson?
At that point,
Yes.
probably not.
Did she like the fact that he brought over the cat to your house without permission?
No.
Did she give you a hard time about the cat being in your house?
Yes, she did.
That's what you just told me.
Yeah.
So then you want me to believe that when he came there, and according to your mother, he came to my property without permission.
He wasn't without permission.
Listen, that's what she told me.
Yeah, but he wasn't.
Just a second.
Okay.
That's what she told me.
Okay.
That all she said to him was, "What are you doing here?" That's what you want me to believe, Mr. Mania?
That's what she said, and that's when he got into it and say, "Shut your mouth, that," you know. And she was like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing?" And he said in Spanish.
No. I don't hear, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" That's two, "What are you doing here?" Do you understand where I'm going, Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Your mother was screaming at him. Yeah, she was. And he called her a bad name, and he should not have. No question about it. It was disrespectful. You understand that?
I do.
Doesn't give you the right to hit him.
I understand that, Your Honor.
And you hit him because he called your mother a name.
That and because he was there at the house without permission.
You just told me a moment ago he wasn't there without permission. You just said that to me, which means he had somebody's permission, because your mother just said to me that my son left the cage out for him.
That was hours before. Hours before.
What difference does it make? You said, "Come and pick up the cage. I'm going to leave it out for you." So he had permission. So now you're telling me that the reason you hit him is because he called your mother a name and because he was on your property without permission.
Yes.
You can't do that.
I understand that.
And you are responsible then for all of his injuries, because in addition to that, not only did your mother lie to me, but you lied in your answer. Because in your answer, you say, "When plaintiff became hostile and aggressive towards my mother, he came at her, so I hit him."
He was when...
No. That's not what you just told me. That's what you put in the answer. You just told me, sir, that the reason you hit him is because he called your mother a name. You got angry.
But when he was saying that he was coming towards us, he was coming towards us, Your Honor.
Mr. Mania, she's a liar, and so are you. You either lied to me just now when you say that the reason you hit him is because he called your mother a name, or you lied in your answer. Because here you would have said to me, "I became frightened because he became very aggressive. He came towards me in a stance towards my mother, in a stance that I thought that this guy, who you outweighed probably by 25 pounds, was going to hurt me or my mother. So in self-defense, I hit him." That's not what happened, Mr. Mania. What happened because he called your mama a name, and you hit him. And you got so angry that you chased him down the street, and you hit him again. And you're going to pay for his injuries. And you're going to pay for his lost wages. And you're going to pay for his pain and suffering. Because you have absolutely no right to do that. Sticks and stones, break your bones, names will never hurt me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
25-year-old Rayanne Fisher is suing her ex-boyfriend, Brandon Wolf, for writing a bad check on a shared bank account.
Miss Fisher, this young man used to be your boyfriend, and you actually lived together. You made the mistake, because you didn't listen to Mother, of opening up a joint bank account with him while you were living together. And after you broke up, he wrote out a check. There was no money in the account, but there was evidently one of those privileges that allows you to write checks even though you don't have money in the account, and you were forced to pay the check because there was no money in the account. And you want him to pay the money back, plus whatever fees were charged to you. Mr. Wolf has an interesting defense and an interesting counterclaim. First, let's discover when you broke up. Date.
The date was July 11th of 06.
And when did you write out this check?
I don't actually have the actual date of it.
But I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do. July 16th of 06.
After the bloom was off the rose, right? Yes. And at the time, Mr. Wolf, were you aware of the fact that there was no money in the account?
Yes, I was.
So tell me why you did that, sir. First tell me why you did it. Then tell me why you don't think you're responsible to pay her back the money for it. And then we'll get to your counterclaim.
Okay. I set up with the finance company to where it was a post-dated check.
For what?
For a down payment on my Jeep.
So you gave the finance company a post-dated check?
Yes.
And?
And I had plans on putting the money in the account within the 2 weeks of my next paycheck.
Yes.
By that time, she had already paid this off.
Well, they had to have deposited the check. What do you mean, Mr. Wolf? I want you to try to clear out the fuzzies in your brain. Now, if you had put the money in the account before they cashed the check, there would be no problem. She wouldn't have known anything, right? So you didn't put the money in the account.
No.
Or the finance company cashed the check before they were supposed to.
Correct.
Well, which one is it? I gave you two choices. They can't be both correct.
They actually cashed the check before the post date.
Well, so the bank probably shouldn't have done that, right?
Right.
But you had the money.
Right. It was a misunderstanding.
Fine. So why didn't you give Miss Fisher back the money? Since you had the money, let me give it to you this way. You had the money. That's what you told me.
Right.
You were going to put it in the bank.
Correct.
Your finance company, for your truck, deposited the check early. That's what you're telling me.
Correct.
But you had the money. What's your first name?
Rayanne.
Say to Rayanne, Rayanne, I'm sorry, this was all a misunderstanding. I have the money. I'm going to give you back whole. Why didn't you give her back the money?
Well, what happened is on my Jeep, I ended up getting it repoed from me.
What month?
It was August, I think.
So we're talking about now in July. July, you had the money
Right.
to pay the down payment, so why didn't you just give it to Rayanne, who paid the overdraft protection on the truck?
I never asked her to pay it.
Who cares? You had it. Why didn't you take care of it?
I didn't feel I had to.
Standing here today, do I change your mind, sir?
No.
Well, then you're an idiot. You the girlfriend?
I'm the fiance.
Fiance. I think twice about making babies with him. Listen. Your debt, your problem. You had the money.
Right.
I also don't believe that a finance company takes a post-dated check and allows you to take a car. That is a lot of who shot John. So, now that I've already determined that you owe her the money, how much money does he owe you?
$592.90.
$592.92. That's what you owe her. Now I am prepared, sir, to listen to your counterclaim.
What happened is I was in the hospital for a week, and one of my payments fell through on my Jeep.
Another payment fell through.
Yes.
Like an accident looking to happen.
They sent a tow truck to her house.
To whose house?
Rand's house.
Why would they think it's at her house?
Because it was registered under the address.
So the tow truck came to the house and said, where's the truck? Go ahead.
She brought the tow truck over to my sister's house, had it towed, sat in...
No. She didn't have anything towed.
Oh. She brought the tow truck over to my sister's
They
house.
said, where is this car?
Right.
And she said, it's not here. Maybe it's at his sister's house. I'll show you where that is. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
So what?
correct. She sat in the parking lot also, took pictures, sent them to me on my phone, and also put them up on her MySpace page.
So what? So what?
I didn't feel that was right.
Maybe she would have felt more kindly if she wasn't out $600 for your truck while you're fooling around with your new fiancé. Do you understand? One
Yes,
good
ma'am.
turn deserves another. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $592.92. Thank you.
All is excused. You may step out.
Rebecca Castillo says former lover Manuel Gonzalez drove her car without permission and wrecked it. Manuel claims Rebecca is making up a story.
Okay, Miss Castillo, it is your claim that Mr. Gonzalez, who was a friend of yours, somehow got hold of your car and caused damage on 3 separate occasions in one night.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez says that you were so drunk that night that you don't remember that you were driving and you caused the damage to your own car.
Not true.
Right?
Right.
And you are just friends?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was messing
I don't
around
want to
with her
guess
for a
what
while.
I'm going to say anything. I'm asking you, are you just friends or are you more than friends?
Yes, we were just friends.
Not intimate?
Yes, we were intimate a couple times.
Well, Bert is my friend. We have never been intimate. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand the difference? How old are you?
Yes, 21.
How old are you?
35.
All right. So that's a little bit of a difference. Okay, so you were intimate friends. That's a new
Yes.
category of friends. There are people who are intimate, then there were friends, and then somewhere in the middle there are intimate friends. You are one of those. When did this assault on your car take place?
June 5th.
Okay. And what were you doing out with Mr. Gonzalez?
Actually, I was home when he called me and asked me to give him and his friend Mike a ride home. And I went.
Why did they need a ride home?
I didn't ask.
And you said, fine, I'll come and pick you up and give you a ride home.
Sure.
Keep going.
When I got to the restaurant, the establishment, he was there with 3 other gentlemen. They were there eating and drinking, and I ordered a margarita, and we were there for about an hour and a half.
How many margaritas did you have?
Just one, Your Honor. And then from there, they wanted to take off, and we went to a billiards place where we were there only a half hour. I played billiards with one of the other gentlemen that was there with them. They wanted to leave. We went to another local establishment, a local bar.
So you were playing chauffeur that night?
Pretty much.
So the reason for the phone call was you guys wanted to drink and you needed somebody to
Drive.
chauffeur you around.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to her?
I asked her for a ride because we had all been drinking.
Well, a ride to take you home is one thing. A ride to schlep you from one place to another so you continue to drink is something entirely different.
Oh, well, we planned on going home. But when she got there, she started drinking with us, and we said, well, you feel like going somewhere else? She said, yeah, so we went.
Keep going, Miss Castillo.
When we left that establishment, we dropped off his other friend, the one that they went in a car with, to his car, to his vehicle, and from there I went to a local gas station. And I went there, I got off, left the keys in the ignition, paid gas to the pump where I was parked at. When I came out, my car was gone. I panicked. I was looking around the parking lot, looking to see where they were. I gave them time. I'm thinking maybe it's a practical joke. Maybe they're out there looking at me, freaking out. I gave them about 15, 20 minutes, and at that point, I had dialed 911 to report the car stolen. When I looked up, he was driving back in the car with his friend still in the car. I was yelling at him. He refused to get out of the driver's side and said he was going to drive himself and his friends home. Said, fine. I pumped the gas in my car, got in the passenger side, and he drove his first friend home. He drove recklessly to the point where that friend didn't even wait till the car came to a complete stop. He literally jumped out of the car before he stopped the car in motion. Okay, and he tells me that's what you get for hanging out with a 21-year-old. He yells that through the window.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. He speeds off, and I'm yelling and telling him to stop, get out of the car. He doesn't get off the car. Drives down a road where there's construction on both sides of the road. There's bolted cones with concrete dividers on both sides of the road. He's driving recklessly. He's hitting these cones. I counted 8. When I seen him headed towards the concrete divider, I literally had to put my hand on the steering wheel to avoid a real major crash. When I did that, he still didn't stop. He had all green lights for whatever reason. We drove to his house. We go into his house. I told him I wanted some resolve. I wanted something in writing. He tells me to go wait.
Just a second. You went into his house. And what happened when you got into his house?
We were talking.
Look at me. Now here, you see, I can tell when somebody is not giving me the accurate story. So don't start embellishing now what you think you want to tell me. What happened when you went into his house?
We talked. I told him I wanted.
What did you say to him?
I told him I wanted something in writing. I asked him, how are we going to handle the situation?
What situation?
about him hitting the car. I hadn't seen the damages to the car yet. I knew he was hitting the pylons, and I knew he had already hit, there was some damage, but I hadn't actually inspected the car at this point. So then he brushes me off, goes into the back room, talks to his friend Mike, then he tells me to wait for him in my car outside, and we'll talk some more. So there I go. I walked outside of the house, went into the car, sat in my car, and at this point I see him getting in Mike's car, and they're driving away. So I turned on my car, I followed them to an apartment complex all the way across town. At this point, I'm looking for my cell phone, which I couldn't find, somewhere on the floor.
Because you were drunk?
That's not true. And when we got there, I followed them to a dead end, and I had to back up. I backed up so that they can straighten out. They were there in the car for about 5 minutes, and then Mr. Gonzalez gets off the car, comes towards my car. In the meantime, his friend Mike drives off, tells me to move over so we could talk. Then he's telling me that he had no reason to bow down to me like I was some princess, that that's the reason why he doesn't have a valid license, because he can't drive. And he puts the car in reverse, backs it into the wall, then he drives off.
So you let him get into the driver's side of the car, according to you, and you moved over. I assume you have a bench seat in the front?
It's not a bench seat, no.
What is it?
Two separate seats.
Two separate seats. So you had to crawl over, and where's the whatever?
It's right there in the center.
It's in the middle.
It's in the middle.
Yeah.
So you had to sort of get your leg over there, and he opened up the driver's side, unless you got out of the driver's side and walked around to the passenger side, so you scooted over somehow. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I did.
You scooted over somehow and let him in.
I didn't have a choice. He was practically sitting on my lap.
Miss Castillo.
Well, I still scooted over.
Miss Castillo, my dear, you're a 35-year-old woman. You had a choice. As soon as he got to his house and you dropped him off, instead of following him across town to an apartment complex in a dead-end street, you call 911. And you say, this man got into my car, took my car, damaged my car. I want to report the damage to my car. Because according to you, you went into his house, Miss Castillo, to get him to sign a piece of paper. Did he sign it?
No.
Should have had some clue that he was not going to take responsibility for what he had done to your car. Is that right?
No.
You thought he was going to take responsibility, and that's why he got into Mike's car and
no, that's
drove
why
away?
I followed him, because I didn't know if he was going to drop him off somewhere and disappear. But when I tried to look for my cell phone, I couldn't find it. It wasn't on in my purse.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, go.
My turn?
That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah, after we left the first establishment, we went to another bar. We did have about 3 pictures. When we left, she asked me to drive because she had been drinking. I said, no, there's no way I'm going to drive. I have a DUI. I'll pick up another one, and I'm in trouble.
I don't want you to speak.
So I told her no. She asked everybody to drive, actually, but she pestered me about it. I didn't drive. When we went to the gas station, nobody took her car. She came back, put gas. We dropped off my friend. We dropped off another friend, went to our house. She followed me inside, and we were there for about 2 hours. And she didn't ask me
What were you doing it for the 2 hours in your house?
We were playing intimate friendship. And after that...
You're a fast learner.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Then after that, I told her to leave because we had to drop off one of my buddy Mike's girlfriend that had just got there. And I didn't want to see her anymore. And she got upset and was telling me things about me and her. And I told her, I'm not with you. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to have nothing to do with you.
This is after you played intimate friendship?
Yes. Of course. And then after that, she went to her car. We left. About halfway to our destination, we realized she was following us. We turned into the apartments where we were supposed to be. She followed us in, and you have to turn like zigzag. So we parked on the side, and as soon as she came in, I got off the car and told her why she was following me, and I was pretty upset. While she mashes out in reverse, boom, hits a wall, and I ran around the side of the car to the driver's side because I was pissed. I was telling her things, I probably shouldn't have been saying. But then she takes off forward and hits the front side of her car on one of those big poles.
Okay. Now, I see that you have something over there, Miss Castillo. I'd like you to tell me what it is.
This is a tape recorder where he leaves me a voice message the day after the incident where he admits he took off in my car without me.
Oh, I'd like to hear that. That I would like to hear, and I would like you to give it to Officer Burtz because I want to listen to it very carefully. You wouldn't have done that, sir.
No.
Is that right?
No, that's not my voice.
Oh. Let's see.
076. Received June 6th at 7:19.
Hey, when I left you yesterday, when you left at the night, your car was fine. I don't know what you're tripping on. I didn't do nothing to your car. I didn't hit nothing, and after I took off, I only took off once without you. And when I came back, your car was fine. I didn't hit nothing, so I don't know why you're going to be mad at me. But if you're all right, then late.
Erase.
That is your voice, Mr. Gonzalez?
That is not my voice.
Sure it is.
Does that even admit that I was driving?
Yeah, it said that I only took off in your car once, and I didn't do any damage to your car.
Well, that wasn't me. I haven't driven.
I only
in a long
took
time.
off. Listen to me. This is what it says.
Okay.
And you know what's logical, Mr. Gonzalez, because you're
What's
a smart young man.
Yes.
If she was going to falsify this and have somebody else pretend that they were you,
Yes.
she would have had this person say, listen, I'm sorry I did all the damage to your car. I'll pay you for it.
Yes.
Wouldn't have had them say, listen, I didn't damage your car. I took off with it once and I brought it back. Nothing happened to it. So I don't know what you're complaining about. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. So this is your voice, and you acknowledge that you took off once with her car, but you say, I didn't cause any damage to your car. That I believe. So you see, you shouldn't fib.
Okay.
Because if you fib, then I can doubt everything that you're telling me. Now, Miss Castillo, I don't believe you damaged your car. I think that you were really angry, and I think that if your car got damaged, you did it, or you let him drive your car. Now, if you're going to choose playmates, you got to choose playmates that are somehow equal to you. These young men, on that night in June, were doing nothing more than using you as a chauffeur. I am not comfortable enough with your story to find that Mr. Gonzalez, as outrageous as his behavior might be, and however morally reprehensible his behavior might be, is responsible for the damage to your car, Ms. Castillo. So your complaint is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
25-year-old Chad Navarro is suing the mother of his daughter, 23-year-old Jennifer Resnikoff, for stealing money from his bank account. Chad claims Jennifer used the money to buy drugs.
Mr. Navarro, you and Ms. Resnikoff lived together for a period of time, and you also have a child together.
Yes.
According to your complaint, when you were living together, you gave Ms. Resnikoff the ability to withdraw money from your bank account. She had access to your bank account, and that was with your permission to cover certain bills.
Yes.
It is your claim that she drained your bank account in order to purchase drugs.
Yes.
And you want her to reimburse you for the amount that she took without your authorization to purchase drugs. Ms. Resnikoff says that she did, in fact, withdraw the money from your bank account. It was a bank account that you gave her access to. She had withdrawn money in the past for household items, but that you had not given her sufficient money to take care of your child, and she purchased items for your child, and that was the reason that she took the money out of the bank. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Resnikoff. When did Mr. Navarro give you access to the bank account?
I'd say probably about 4 months after we first met.
Give me the month and the year.
Approximately, I would say March of 2002, approximately.
So from March of 2002 until what date did you have access to the bank account?
Till we broke up.
Which was when?
Which was in August of this year.
During what months do you claim that she withdrew, without your permission, the bulk of the money, over $3,000?
Yeah.
September and October of what year?
5.
And when did the two of you break up?
We broke up maybe at the end of September.
October. Not August, it was October.
When was the last time you lived with Miss Resnikoff?
I don't really remember the dates. You know, I don't remember.
Was it 2 months ago or 2 weeks ago?
It was about a month, maybe 2 weeks ago.
I moved in with my brother 3.5 weeks ago, thank you.
That's not August.
Well, I was saying that in August and October she was taking the money out. In 8 and 9. Oh, August and September. Okay.
Can I see your bank statement? How old is your baby?
11 months, ma'am.
Where is the baby?
She is here.
Who does she live with?
Me.
Are you talking, sir, about where it says ATM withdrawals?
Yes. She had the card. She took it out of the mail.
What'd you spend all this money on?
My baby.
Baloney.
No, really. I have a witness that was there most of the times that I went out and purchased stuff.
Well, just a second. Who gave you the authority to do that?
Well, I thought, seeing that I was on the account, that I could access it without this being a problem.
You spent over $3,000 in a 30-day period on your baby?
I don't think it was $3,000.
Yeah?
Your Honor?
Yes, go ahead.
Right on the back page, you can see the checks that she wrote to cash. So, I mean, why would she write it to cash if she was just buying the stuff for the baby? She could have just went there.
Listen to me. It's baloney. I just said to you, it's baloney.
I was just saying, sorry.
Yeah, it's baloney. My question to you, Mr. Navarro, is something that, to me, is more serious than $3,000 out of your bank account. You have a son or a daughter with this lady?
Daughter.
And you separated and she took the baby?
Yes.
And you say she's got a drug problem?
She's with her brother right now, and
So
she's
what?
been clean.
How do you know that?
Because
How do you know
I
that?
trust her brother. Her brother's my best friend, and I trust him. And
You trust him to what?
He's there all
Take
day.
your hands out of your pockets.
He's there all day,
Well,
and
why? He doesn't work?
no, he does work. He does eBay.
What do you mean he does eBay?
eBay, he sells stuff on eBay.
Where does he get the stuff he sells on eBay?
He buys it offline and then sells it like laptop computers and stuff like that.
Where does he get the money from to buy the stuff, sir?
Where does he get it? From eBay. He posts the stuff, he gets the money, and then he uses the money to buy the stuff again. You know what I mean? That's how...
Do I know what you mean? I know what you're telling me. I know what you're telling me. What do you do for a living?
Me? I'm a warehouse manager.
Let me tell you this, Mr. Navarro. If somebody has a $3,000 a month drug habit, which is what you're alleging, you don't get over a $3,000 a month drug habit unless you go into an inpatient facility for a long time. And I wouldn't believe my best friend who makes his money in some unorthodox way that his sister is clean. You following me, sir?
Yes.
That's what I would worry about. Not the fact that she took this money out of a bank account that you gave her access to, that she's had access to for 3 years. You should have been watching the store a little more carefully. Do you understand? Yeah. What I would worry about is my 11-month-old child, if you believe that she was using drugs, which is very easy to find out. You go to court, you file for custody of your child, they take her in, they do a drug test on her hair. They do a hair follicle test, and the hair follicle test will show what kind of drugs she had been doing over the last year, in what amount, and in what frequency. Not whether she used drugs the day before, but it will show a pattern of drug use. That's what you do. Do you understand? If that's what you think.
Well, she even admitted
listen to
me.
me. Have you done that?
What? No.
Take custody of your daughter?
No.
Well, then I hardly believe, sir, that a man, the only one in this whole family of 3, she, her brother, and you, the only one who works, who has a steady source of income for a long time, you're the only one who can manage to hold it together, has not done that. I said, it's okay for you. You can go live with your brother. You and your drug habit, and your brother and his unorthodox business can all go live together, and I'll do what I have to do. That's not what a responsible person does, Mr. Navarro. Responsible person doesn't leave an 11-month-old child with someone who had a $3,000 a month drug habit. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I did not have a drug habit. I had admitted to him that I had tried certain drugs, which I'm not proud of.
Just a second. Where did you get them?
Where did I get them?
No, I asked the question. Don't take time to think of the answer. Where did you get them?
From his...
He gave them to you for nothing, or did you pay for them?
I paid for them.
Out of this money?
Part of it, yes, but not $3,000 worth.
I don't care if it was 20 cents. She says she told you she got the drugs from your...
There was an intervention that we had, and everybody came over, and she admitted that she was doing the drugs, and she did not
just
tell
told me. She just told me she was doing drugs.
But it was more than that, what you admitted.
Listen
it
to
wasn't
me.
only that.
Listen to me, sir. I believe if she admits to a little, she used a lot. My problem with you, Mr. Navarro, is when you go to court and seek custody of your daughter, they will do a drug test on her mother. And I guarantee you that if it's established that she's been using drugs, the chances of you getting custody of your child, if you don't do drugs...
No. The thing is, if I do that, she said she would run, so...
She said she'll run?
Yeah.
Mr. Navarro, that's what they all say. That's what you're supposed to do if you feel as if your child is at risk. Do you understand?
Yes.
And then, if you have custody of your daughter, that gives her an opportunity to get a job, which now she doesn't have, right?
No.
And once she gets a job, you might get some of this money back. Won't be in the form of this, it'll be in the form of child support that she'll have to pay you to help take care of your daughter. You get it?
Yep.
That would be my concern, sir. My 11-month-old would be my concern. Is it yours?
Yes.
Good, your case is dismissed, that's all.
28-year-old Monique Simmons is suing her ex-boyfriend, Bruce Melton, for loans she made him to pay his rent and 2 bail bonds.
Ms. Simmons, the defendant is your former boyfriend, according to your complaint a while ago, over a year ago. You made him a series of loans.
Correct.
And you want your money back.
Correct.
And Mr. Melton says that you did, in fact, give him money. You gave him money for rent once. You bailed him out of jail a couple of times. But that's what you did because you were in a relationship. There was never any discussion of paying you back. Those were gifts. Is that right, Mr. Melton?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time, Mr. Melton, that Ms. Simmons gave you money?
Actually, when I moved into my apartment, she helped buy stuff for my apartment, like bath, shower tiles, and some dishes and things. So
well, those very nice of her.
Yeah.
Those were clearly gifts because she's not even talking about that in her complaint. She's talking about cash money.
Well, she paid my rent for me.
When did she pay your rent for you?
Around August, I believe.
And why did Miss Simmons have to pay your rent?
She didn't have to pay anything, Your Honor. She did that on her own accord.
Well, tell me how that happened, Mr. Melton.
Because I had moved my apartment. I was drawing unemployment at the time, and then my unemployment ran out. And I was searching for a job. I'm a student at Eastern University, and I was going to school.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
What are you studying?
Actually, it's called Board of Trustees Bachelor's.
You mean when you graduate, you go on a board?
No, Your Honor, that's what the degree is called, a Board of Trustees bachelor's degree.
I never heard of that. Mr. Melton, why don't you try to explain to me what that is?
It's a continuing education degree for students.
Do you actually go to school? Or is
yes, I do, Your Honor.
You go to a classroom?
I go to class.
It's not a virtual classroom?
No, ma'am, Your Honor. I go to class on the weekends.
And how do you support yourself otherwise?
Well, at the present, I'm working, Your Honor. I'm a chef.
What were you doing in August of 2004?
I was getting unemployment until it ran out.
It usually takes about a year before it runs out.
No, ma'am, Your Honor. In Champaign, it takes 6 months.
When did you move into your apartment, sir?
May of 2004.
So you moved into your apartment, sir, while you were on unemployment?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Well, that seems like a foolhardy thing to do, sir.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll explain, Your Honor. I was married, and me and my wife got separated. So I left her the house and moved out into the apartment.
All right, you moved in May, and you were still collecting unemployment.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Were you halfway into your unemployment, sir?
I got my unemployment in May. It started coming in May.
Well, then you still had your unemployment in August, when you took money for her for rent.
Your Honor, I didn't take anything from her. What she did on her own. I never asked her to do it.
I didn't ask you that, sir. I said in August you were still collecting unemployment and you took money from her for rent. Now, whether it was a loan or a gift, my words were accurate, sir. I did not go to school on weekends. You took money for rent at a time when you were still collecting unemployment.
Because I was getting unemployment, yes.
There we go. That was for your benefit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tell me about August of 2004 when you paid his rent.
Well,
how much did you pay?
$290. And then in September, he again asked me to loan him money for the full amount, and that was $475.
Now, you are the mother of 3 children.
Correct.
What do you do for a living?
Right now, I'm working at a factory.
What were you doing in August of 2004?
I was a student.
And who was supporting you?
I was receiving a fellowship from school.
Where's the father of your 3 children?
He's still in town.
Does he support the children?
Yes.
They're still married, Your Honor.
Did I ask you for any editorializing?
No, I just wanted to share that statement.
Don't share anything with me unless I ask you a question, Mr. Melton. So between your fellowship and the child support you receive, you gave him money for September's rent and for half of August's rent.
Correct.
Not Swift.
I know that now.
Now, when was the next time you gave him money?
Actually, in August, I loaned him money to pay 3 loans that he had.
You have checks for that?
Yes.
How much was it?
One was for $115, one was for $113, and one was for $63.
Those amounts sound familiar to you, Mr. Melton. She's got checks.
She has checks, but the thing is, I never asked her to pay
I didn't
anything.
ask whether you asked her. I'm just asking you whether that was paid on your behalf.
Well, it was a gift on her behalf.
Listen to me. I didn't ask you that.
Okay.
Was the money paid on your behalf?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, you're divorced?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You weren't divorced in August of 2004.
And neither was she.
I didn't ask you that. Don't be a wise mouth,
I'm
sir.
not trying to be. I apologize.
Then just answer my question. Then we'll get along just fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't find you particularly attractive, sir. Maybe she did, I don't.
Okay.
You get it?
I hear you, Your Honor.
Good. This is not going to be a happy time for you, Mr. Melton. I suggest that you stop laughing. How many children do you have?
I have 3, Your Honor.
Now, do you give them any money?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
How much money do you give them?
Well, I
Well
have
is
to pay
not an
child
answer.
support now, Your Honor, and it's
What?
$365 a month.
Do you pay it?
Yes, I do.
No. You don't pay it, Mr. Melton, but let's suppose you did pay it. Let's say you did pay it.
Uh-huh.
And let's say you found out that your ex-wife had a boyfriend, and she gave her boyfriend $365 a month. How would you feel about that?
First of all...
No. Not first of all, second of all, third of all. I just gave you a storyline. You pay your ex-wife for your support of your 3 children the paltry sum, if you pay it, of $365 a month, and somebody tells you, and you confirm, that your wife has a boyfriend, and she gives the boyfriend $365 a month. And my question to you, Mr. Melton, is, how would you feel about that?
As long as it ain't my money, I don't care what she do.
It was your money.
Well, I don't know if it was mine or not. As long as my kids have what they need, it does not matter to me because I have no relationship with her.
Fine. Mrs. Melton out there, listen carefully. You can do whatever you want with Mr. Melton's money.
She knows that.
He doesn't care because he probably doesn't pay you. But when he starts paying you, you can do whatever you want with the money. Now, you get a financial aid check, sir?
Yes, I do.
You're 38 years old.
Yes, I am.
And you're going to be a trustee when you grow up. Is that right?
I'm going to be a trustee. I'm going to be on the board of trustees.
Now, you paid bail for him. What kind of charge?
DUI and driving under revoked license.
And what month was that in?
October of 2004.
That's your problem. Because if you're dumb enough to give him all this money in August, then he calls you and says, I'm in jail, come and bail me out, that's your problem.
Well, he told me
Now,
to add-
just to say, I don't care what he told you. That's your problem. You're a student, got 3 children, so you should be smarter. Put your hand down. Then you had him arrested for domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
And you bailed him out again.
Correct.
That's your problem. Stupid does not get rewarded.
I just need to say one thing, Your Honor, if it's possible.
Are you going to pay me a compliment, Mr. Melton?
I think you are one of the finest judges on the land. Now, may I say
You
something?
are the man, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,056. That's all.
24-year-old Carl Anderson is suing 21-year-old Taryn Gluck and her father, Alan, for the cost to fix damage to his car. Carl claims Taryn dinged his door while pulling into a parking space.
All rise. It's case number 104 on the calendar in the matter of Anderson versus Gluck.
How old are you?
21.
Sit down. No.
Parties have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Have a seat, sir.
Mr. Anderson, you claim that the defendant damaged your car.
Yes, ma'am.
You wanted to pay for the damage. I don't know what her answer is. She sort of says, I didn't do anything wrong, and I let my father take care of it. Okay, Mr. Anderson, why don't you tell me when this happened and tell me what happened?
Okay. It was March 3rd, 2006. It was a Friday, and rent was due. That's my roommate, Sean. So we both drove to the bank to get our hazard of rent to pay the rent. So I drove my car, I parked and went inside. Sean, he drove his car through the drive-thru and got his money. So I went inside, got my half of the rent. I'm walking to my car, and as I approached my driver's side door, Taryn pulled into the parking spot on my passenger side. She pulled in and parked her car. So I know she seen me standing there.
Don't tell me what you know she saw.
Okay.
Just tell me what happened. You're standing outside your car on the driver's side.
Yes, ma'am.
She pulled in on the passenger side. What kind of car was she driving?
A Jeep Cherokee.
What kind of car?
2002 Hyundai Elantra.
So her car's much bigger than yours.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what happened next?
So she pulled in to the parking spot next to mine, and by then I had got in my car, closed my door, and I was counting my half of the rent. So I'm in my car, she opens her car door, and then boom, she hits my passenger side. So when it happened, I was kind of in shock.
Now, when she opened the car door, you must have turned around when you heard this.
Yes.
What did you see when you turned around?
Well, after it hit, she hopped out of her car real fast. She hurried up and closed the door. Then she hurried up and started walking real fast into the bank.
Have pictures of your car?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please.
Mind you, I wash my car. I keep up with the maintenance of my car regularly, so I know what scratches are on my car and what scratches aren't on my car. So I waited. Mind you, I just left from
these are the scratches you're talking about, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
The two?
Yes.
1, 2?
Yes.
Not any other scratches on the car?
Just those two.
Just those two?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
So mind you, I had just left from inside the bank. It was empty. So I'm sitting there waiting for her to come out. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. So I'm thinking in my head, oh, she's probably trying to wait for me to leave to avoid the situation. So I'm sitting there waiting. She finally comes out. She's walking straight. She's not even looking in my direction. She's walking to her car, and she was about to put her car keys in her car, and I had to stop her. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And she was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "You know you hit my car with your car door when you first pulled up." And she was like, "Oh, I did?" So when she said that, I already knew what type of integrity she had. When she tried to deny it, well, she didn't really deny it, but she was like, "Oh, I did?" And I was like, "Yeah, you hit it." She was like, "So what do you want to do?" I was like, "Well, we need to exchange information." So she said, "Hold on." She got in her car and closed the door. So I'm thinking, oh, she might be trying to pull off. So I got behind her car, and I wrote down her tag number. So about a minute passed, and she opened the car door crying, boo-hoo crying. My dad wants to talk to you. So she put me on the phone with her dad, Mr. Alan Gulek. So I got on the phone with him. So he introduced himself. He was real polite. He introduced himself. He asked me what happened. I told him exactly what happened. Then he said, "Are you sure she did it?" And I said, "Sir, I'm positive because I was sitting inside my car when it happened." He was like, "Okay, well, this is what I want to do." He was like, "I don't want to have to go through my insurance company. I'm a lawyer down in Miami. I'll go ahead and take care of everything for you. Just go ahead and get an estimate and fax it to me, and I'll take care of everything."
Okay, and did you get an estimate, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the estimate that you faxed to?
Estimate that I faxed, $497.76.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Because Mr. Gluick says you faxed him an estimate for $277.
No, the story, because after I faxed him that estimate, I didn't hear from him. Like, months had passed, and I still didn't hear from him. So one day I was on campus. I went through the campus directory. I got her phone number. I called her. I was like, "Hey, my name's Carl. Do you remember me?" She's like, "Yeah, I remember you." I was like, "Did you talk to your dad?"
Just a second. Did you ever fax him an estimate for $277?
No, I had called him and told him I got a cheaper estimate. Because
okay. So you told him you got a cheaper estimate for $277.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you never got paid?
No.
Good. Go ahead.
I pulled into the bank. It was raining, so I got out of my car, walked into the bank.
Just a second. You got out of the car, and when you get out of the car, do you open this heavy door to the Jeep Cherokee with your hand or with your foot?
With my hand.
No, that's not what you do. You open the door and you give it a little shove with your foot so that it opens easy. That's what you do. That's what you did.
I didn't open it with my foot.
No, you opened it with your hand.
Right.
And then you push it with your foot because it's hard for you because a Jeep Cherokee is a high car. How tall are you?
5'4".
So that you have to hop down.
I stepped down?
Yeah. Right. Been there. Question to you is, you dinged his car. That's what you did. There's no question in my mind you dinged his car. Okay. You've probably dinged a lot of people's cars. My question to you is, why is someone who's 21 years old, who's old enough to be in possession of a big car, a big weapon, if you don't use it right, why does somebody like you call their daddy?
I wasn't sure what information I should give him, if we should call the cops or not. So I wanted to
He asked you for your insurance information.
He said, "Can I have your information?"
Okay, and what did you think he meant?
My
What
phone
did you think
number,
he meant?
some
Your
way to
height,
get in
your
touch
weight,
with
your
me?
color, your eye color?
Some way to get in touch with me?
Then you shouldn't be driving a car. If you thought he wanted some way to get in touch with you, then you shouldn't be driving a car.
I thought the cops should have been called then if he wanted my insurance information.
So, fine. You went into your car and you called your father.
Yes, ma'am.
Did your father say call the police?
No, that's why I didn't.
Well, what did your father say to you?
He said, "Give him your information."
And what information did he say to give him?
I gave him both of our phone numbers and our name.
That's not the information he needs. He needs your insurance information. Did your father say give him your insurance card?
No, ma'am.
Well, he should have. That's what it means when you exchange information. Right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you can stand up.
Thank you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carl Anderson says fellow motorist Taryn Gluck owes for dinging his car door in a bank parking lot. Taryn denies causing any damage.
Okay. Why didn't you tell your daughter to call the police? She had been involved in an accident.
Well, number one, in the state of Florida,
You're only required to call the police when there's personal injury damage, which there was not, and that was the first thing I ascertained.
Perfect. Having ascertained that, when your daughter said he wants my information, that includes your insurance information. You know that. You're a lawyer.
Yes.
Well, it would seem to me that along with your name and number, he should have had your insurance information, unless you said to him, send me an estimate and I'll take care of it. Is that what you said to him, sir? Look at me. Don't look over there.
I didn't say it in those words, no.
I don't care whether you said it in those words, sir. It's either, here's my insurance information, take it up with my insurance company, or fax me an estimate and I'll take care of it.
I said, send me some paperwork, send me some information, and we'll take care of it. That was
Fine, then you pay for it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's clear to me that these two dings are what was caused by the car door hitting your car and being irresponsible enough not even to get out and look at it and say, I hit one door against another. At least let me look at it and see if I caused any damage.
I looked at it.
No, you didn't. When you hit his car, you left as soon as you could. When he called you on it, when you came back, then you looked at his car. Correct. But when you did it, you didn't look at his car. You hightailed it out of there as soon as you could. Wrong thing to do. You got to act responsibly. You look like a nice girl. You're big enough to drive a car. You have to do the right thing when you drive a car. And you're supposed to be careful when you get out and not use your foot. You know, they call that the Florida foot. I live in Florida. I know the Florida foot. The way women get out of a car. Unfortunately, it's mostly the women. They get out, and older men. They get out of the car, they open the car door, and they go, boom! So it opens the door easily so that they can get themselves out of the car. That's what you did. Okay, you owe him $277, and it wasn't the right thing to blow him off and to not keep in contact with him. You neither, sir. Wrong thing to do. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you, that's all.
Robert McCullough is suing a former bandmate of his daughter's friend, Joseph Bongiorno, for the return of his musical equipment.
Mr. McCullough, it is your claim that the defendant has a piece of music equipment that belongs to you.
Actually, two pieces, Your Honor.
An amp and something else.
And a controller for it, yes.
The defendant acknowledges that he has the equipment. He said it's his. You gave it to him.
Okay.
That's your defense, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where is it?
It is currently in my possession at my home.
How long do you know the plaintiff?
Mr. McCullough, I met back in November of 2008.
How did you meet him?
I met him through Matthew Clooney, the plaintiff's witness. I'd been in a band with them since early, probably November of 2007.
So you met him through your bandmate?
Yes.
Now, tell me the circumstances of how this perfect stranger to you, someone with whom you had no relationship with, no business dealings with, correct? Mm-hmm. Gave you what he says, valuable pieces of equipment worth in excess of $1,000.
I went to his house with Matt Clooney, and he said Matt had previously called me saying that Mr. McCullough had an amplification system for me to use, and I went to
use an amp system for you to use.
It was given to me, yes.
No, you first said he had an amp system for you to use.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the words that you just said. Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
No, of course it's right. You want me to play it back for you?
No, thanks.
What you said was, Matt called you and said that Mr. McCullough had amp equipment for you to use. Then you quickly changed the word use for you to have. But the first word you used was use, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do?
I took the equipment from Mr. McCullough.
What was the agreement? What did he say to you, and what did you say to him?
Well, when it was given to me or handed over to me, there was no agreement saying that I had to return the equipment.
Tell me what he said to you.
What he said to me was, you can have this equipment and use it, you know, tell me what you think about it, and that was what was said.
Did you use it?
Yes.
Did you tell him what you thought about it?
No, I did not.
Then you have to give it back. He gave it to you to use, and he said to you, I want you to use this and tell me what you think about it. There's your contract, if I believe you. You never told him what you thought about the equipment.
No, I did not.
You got to give it back. Now. The fact that you're angry because you're no longer in the band doesn't mean you don't return the equipment. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Within 5 days, sir, you get your equipment back.
Your Honor, just one quick thing I'd like to interject, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What would be the recourse I'd have the two pieces of equipment?
Do you have the two pieces of equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
He has them.
Okay.
And they're to be returned to him in good condition. Otherwise, he can bring you back here. Do you understand? You don't want to be back here because you've already embarrassed yourself. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. Thank you.
Excuse.
Charnita Christopher is suing her former friend and child care provider, Vashni Dixon, for her share of money paid to Vashni by the state. Vashni is countersuing for unpaid child care fees.
Miss Christopher, Miss Dixon was a friend of yours.
Yes,
and it
ma'am.
is your claim that at some point she needed some assistance. You needed some assistance with child care, and the state was paying for your child care costs.
Yes,
You engaged Miss Dixon to watch your children with the following arrangement, that she would share those child care responsibilities with your aunt, and then they would split the check. It is your claim that when Miss Dixon got the check, she kept the whole check for herself, and you want half the check so that you can give it to your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Dixon says that there was no aunt, that she watched the children, but that you wanted her to split the county check. You would keep half, and she would keep half. And she felt that that was very unfair since she had the responsibility of watching the children. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is nonsense. Her counterclaim wants you to pay the difference between what the county paid for child care and what she thinks she deserves for child care, the overage, because that's what it says in the contract from the state. Well, that's not the contract you had with her, Miss Dixon.
When she told me, we made the agreement.
Miss Dixon, that wasn't your agreement that she was going to pay you extra.
She was supposed to pay me $4 an hour. The state was supposed to pay that to me that they wouldn't pay all of that. It's her responsibility to pay.
It's not her responsibility.
How is it not her responsibility?
Because I say so. Because that wasn't your contract with her. Now, how many children do you have?
3.
How long have you been receiving child care money from the state for the 3 children?
Approximately a year.
Starting when?
It started again March 27th of 06.
And where were you working in March?
I wasn't working. It was for me to be able to look for employment at that time.
Well, did you find employment?
I found employment July 3rd. I was hired at Glamour Shots.
So you're telling me from March 27th until July 3rd, the state was paying you to look for a job?
Yes.
To watch your children?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she start to babysit for you?
August 7th, 2006.
And where were you working at that time?
I wasn't working.
Well, what happened to the job that you started in July?
Oh, August, Glamour Shots. I'm sorry, Glamour Shots.
Are you still working there?
No, ma'am.
When did you stop working there? It's very easy to find out by calling them. When did you stop?
August 15th. I have my check stubs.
All right, so you worked there for a month.
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you leave there?
Because they weren't giving me enough hours.
Well, so you left that job because they weren't giving you enough hours, and you went to the situation where you weren't working at all.
Yes, ma'am. There was a lot of other issues with that job.
So the county wasn't really getting a great bang for their buck by paying for your 3 children for daycare while you're looking for a job, and you had a job for a total of 1 month when you quit because they weren't giving you enough hours. Something doesn't sound right there, Miss Christopher. So she started working August 7th, and now a week later you're not working. So what are you doing when she's watching your children?
Out looking for work.
What does that mean?
I have to go to the workforce center, and they work with me to help me look for work.
Well, how many days a week do you go to the center?
It could be 4, sometimes 5.
Could it be 3?
It depends on what my job counselor...
When did you go to work?
Where did I go to work?
When? First is
I
when?
haven't. I'm looking for work right now. My children are not in child care right now at all.
So she started to work on August 7th. And when did you stop working?
I left her house on September 4th, I believe.
So you were there for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
How many hours a day did you watch the children, or did you live in her house?
She'd leave around maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and she wouldn't get back till like 8 o'clock at night.
What about this aunt? Do you know anything about an aunt?
I never heard anything about her aunt watching her kids before this.
Where's the aunt?
She's at home.
She's not here?
No.
Well, how do you expect to prove to me that somebody else babysat for your children?
I have the proof.
Show me. What kind of proof are you showing me?
Oh, it's the hours that my aunt kept the children. She typed this up. She has a license.
I don't accept that, Miss Christopher. That's hearsay.
Okay. Well, that's what I have.
Well, your case is dismissed. My dear, she got a check for watching your children. You have no proof that somebody else watched your children. Ridiculous. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Brenda O'Henley, and her brother Daniel are suing their former tenant, Jared Debnam, for unpaid rent and utilities. Jared says his living arrangements were substandard, so he's not paying.
You are brother and sister, is that correct? Yes. You bought a condo together?
Yes, 2 years ago.
You live together?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Get along?
Yep. Yeah.
Work
For the
together,
most
too.
part.
Fabulous. How much was this condo?
It was $770,000. It's now worth $950,000.
Perfect. So you bought this condo and you did a very foolish thing. You decided to take in a third roommate.
Yes.
That would be you. And according to your complaint, he owes you a whole bunch of money for rent, and primarily for rent, utilities. Mr. Debnam says, well, there was never really a formal agreement about him paying so much per month, and he's got a whole host of other problems that he encountered while living with you. You moved a girlfriend in shortly after he moved in, so he didn't feel as if that was right. There was a leak, and some of his clothes got moldy, right?
Correct.
Have you always lived in the United States of America?
Yes, I have.
So you know that this is what we call a free country.
Correct.
If you don't like something, or if you don't like a place where you're living, what can you do?
Choose to move on.
You don't choose to stay, kvetch, and don't pay. You move on to where there isn't a girlfriend, where there isn't a leak, where there isn't mold, but you don't stay and don't pay. Now, you lived there for a year, and you did pay some money in a bulk. You know, you didn't pay it by month because you were sort of not working, whatever. You got a check, and you gave them $4,000.
Well, that was just a part of the check from one of my financial aid checks.
Did you have your own bedroom?
Yes.
Did you have your own bathroom?
No.
Who did you share the bathroom with?
Everybody that used the house. As far as the communal upstairs bathroom, so it wasn't just my bathroom.
And what were you supposed to pay a month?
Before we moved in, I told him, being a graduating senior, that my money was based solely upon receiving periodic financial aid checks, at which time I told him this is how I would be able to pay him whatever money. And so he knew about this situation before.
Tell me what he knew.
He knew that I would be getting financial aid checks each semester.
Fine.
And
So
that
you
from
did
those
get a-
checks, I would pay him what I could towards the money for living at his place.
Without any set amount? So you could have given him, let's say, $500 for 6 months, and that would have been okay.
No, Your Honor. He wanted to pay, or come to a limit to pay $750 a month.
Ah, okay. You know, I knew if you let you talk long enough, if I let you talk long enough, eventually we were going to get someplace close to the truth, sir. So, according to you, he wanted $750 a month, which you agreed to pay when you got your financial aid checks.
Correct.
How much did you give him?
A little less than $7,500 total.
So that would be for 10 months. Did he give you $7,500?
Overtime, yes.
So how much do you think he owes you?
I've come up with about $6,000.
For what?
Well, it was $750 plus utilities and a sticker for him to park his car. I actually have a breakdown of the whole payment history that
I don't need the whole payment history. If you acknowledge that he paid you $7,500, that's for 10 months. That means he owes you 3 months' rent, which is $2,250.
Well, do you not include utilities in that?
It does not include utilities,
Our
sir.
agreement included utilities.
Show me in writing. Well, what I'm telling you is, if you allow somebody to live with you for 13 months and do not collect utilities from them on a regular basis, I'm not going to waste my precious time, 2 graduate degrees, and go over month-to-month Con Edison bills. What I'm telling you is, if you got $750 a month from him, Mr. O'Henley, we wouldn't be standing here today.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you. $750 a month for 13 months. He's already paid you for 10, which means he owes you $2,250. Now, is there any reason why I shouldn't enter a judgment in that amount, sir?
Just for the living condition that I was provided with when living at this place. This is why he didn't receive, or what I feel he got paid the full amount of what I was provided living at this place.
That's why we talked about a free country,
Correctly.
Mr. Debnam.
Correct. And so
Free country means
that was my
you
only
who?
complaint.
Who is the person that's raising her hand that's irritating
I would
me?
agree. Except for I just didn't have the opportunity.
Who is the person raising their hand that's irritating me?
This is my fiance. And she's the person who lived with me at this place, not lived, but came and stayed at my place. Or not
So
our
it
place,
wasn't
excuse me.
only his girlfriend that stayed. Your
No.
girlfriend stayed too.
I'm sorry,
Just a second.
4 or 5 days a week.
So it wasn't only his girlfriend that stayed, it was your girlfriend that stayed.
My girlfriend would come there every other weekend and spend the weekend. Correct.
So she stayed. And if she didn't like living there because of the cold and the mold, she wouldn't have come. Okay. Right?
Right.
Should have gone to her house. By not stand there and kvetch, sir, that you didn't like the circumstances and you stayed anyway. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,250. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Sandra Terrace says her ex-daughter-in-law, Miss Shelley Johnson, owes for airline tickets, wedding expenses, and the return of a family heirloom. Sandra claims Miss Shelley is a bigamist.
Miss Terrace, this is your former daughter-in-law. She was
Yes.
married to your son for a very short time, and it is your claim that she owes you some money. She owes you money for airline tickets that you claim you bought with money that was a loan to her to bring her family to see you over a Christmas holiday. You claim she owes you for some wedding expenses that you paid for, and you expected her to pay you back. And you claim that she owes you for one final thing, and that is for some family heirlooms that you gave to her in anticipation of her being your daughter-in-law for a very long time.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson says that these were all gifts. She never intended to pay you back. There was never any discussion of paying you back for the items that you purchased for her. And you're just angry that she divorced your son and married somebody else. You did remarry.
Yes.
When were you married to, I assume, this gentleman? This is your son?
This is my son.
I was legally married to Ethan on January 10th of '07.
And when did you separate from him?
January 25th, I believe, is when he moved out.
Why?
Because he did not want to get a job. He didn't want to pay rent. He didn't want to help with any of the household expenses.
You mean you found this out in 15 days?
Well, he...
Miss Johnson, you got married in January 10th. January 25th, 15 days later, it was over.
Yes.
Strange. Okay, tell me about the airline tickets, which is what you're complaining about first, Miss Terrace.
The airline tickets to bring Shelley and her daughters for Christmas. I flew them down.
From where?
I flew them from Denver to Las Vegas so they could come and spend Christmas with me.
You have daughters?
Yes.
How many?
2.
So you wanted her to come down and spend Christmas with you?
Yes.
With your son?
Yes.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Shelley had no money for airline tickets, and I was asked if I would purchase them, and I would be paid back.
Who told you that you were going to be paid back?
Shelley.
No, she didn't. That sounds ridiculous, Miss Terrace. You never told you were going to pay her back for the airline tickets?
No, that was an agreement with her son.
Of course not. You wanted your son to come to your house for Christmas. So you said, I'll send you airline tickets. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out, Miss Terrace. Right? Of course. I have children. If I want my children to come and spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with me, and they don't have money, I say, I'll send you the tickets. So, move on. I don't believe you that she said she was going to pay you back. What's next?
Okay. Starting with August 14th, my son discovered that Shelley had remarried on February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Their marriage was not annulled until May.
Okay.
They were still living as man and wife.
Okay. Would you tell me what it is that you claim she owes you money for? I'm not the moral police.
Okay. At that time, I told them that I would help out paying for a formal wedding and a reception to be held on May 26th. At that time, after discovering that Shelley had committed bigamy by marrying a man on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Just a second. You said they were married January 10th, 2007.
Correct.
And then they were supposed to have a reception in May.
Correct.
But they were no longer living together in May of '07.
That's correct.
And you paid for what?
I paid for all wedding expenses.
And?
And I was told that I would be repaid for this. However, Shelley, it was an agreement that I would be paid back. And after discovering that Shelley married a man while she was still married to my son, I feel she is not entitled to anything.
Just a second. I know what you feel. When did you plan this wedding and make the payments that you're complaining about? In what month?
December.
In December. So you made certain outlays of money.
Correct.
Had your son ever been married before?
No.
Had you been married before?
Yes, ma'am.
So you wanted to make a wedding. Where was the wedding supposed to be?
In my hometown.
In your hometown. For your family and friends.
That's...
Because your son was never married before.
That's correct.
So you said, I'll make the wedding. Miss Terrace, we know where it's going, my dear. That's what you do. You didn't expect her to pay for the wedding. She's got 2 children that she's, I assume, supporting, that they live with her. She wasn't going to make the wedding. You wanted to make the wedding in Las Vegas, where you live, where your son grew up, where you have family and friends, and you said, I'll pay for the wedding. You put down a deposit on a hall, you put down deposit on invitations, and whatever you did. The formal marriage didn't work out, and nothing came of the May event because they were already separated for 5 months by the time May rolled around. So, doesn't work out, doesn't work out. Would have been no difference if they got married January 10th and you paid for the wedding in January, and that was the formal wedding, and they separated 15 days later. You don't get your money back from her. What do you want?
I'd like to add something, Your Honor.
Go.
Amen. I moved out of the apartment on February 20th of 2007. Shelley's second ex-husband, she found out unfortunately had died, had passed away on December 1st. Shelley was having a very hard time grieving with this. And I can remember multiple times her waking up in the middle of the night telling me how much Chris was a better man than me.
Listen, does this have some relevance to your mother's lawsuit, or you just want to have a cathartic event? What does that have to do? Mr. Tarrant, listen to me very carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand you were hurt. However, you are a very lucky man. Very lucky. Because you were about to take on a responsibility of a woman who's a little nutty. There's no question she's a nut. Because she had 2 girls, and she gave up what appears to be a perfectly reasonable guy with a perfectly reasonable family, and married somebody, according to you, who's in prison.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's nutty. So, finding that out now, before you do something stupid like make a baby with her so that you're tied to her forever, you should go like this and say, thank you very much. If it only cost me a few $1,000s to get rid of this nut, it's a bargain. It's the bargain of the century. Do you understand, Mr. Tarras?
Yes, ma'am.
Your mother should understand that, too. Now, I understand you were hurt. You'll find somebody else, uncomplicated, and do yourself a favor. How old are you?
25, ma'am.
25. Pick somebody without baggage.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now sit.
I am, ma'am.
What's next?
Your Honor, due to her committing bigamy.
It's over. She never promised to pay you for the wedding. Move on.
Well, she did
No, she did not.
Okay.
No, that's a fib. I don't like fibbers. I have 5 children. I've made more than 5 weddings because we had a couple of doubles in there. I know what it's like. None of my children ever paid me back for weddings. Do you understand? Even when the marriage didn't work out. Get over it, Miss Tarras. Now move on.
Okay. Well, just the bigamy charges. She marries another man while they're still married. That concerns me.
It may concern you, madam. I am not a criminal court judge. You want to notify the district attorney that she committed bigamy? Go with good luck and go with my blessing. Get on to what I'm here about. The last part of your lawsuit, which is items that you claim you gave her, family heirlooms that you want back.
Yes, my mother makes hand-sewn quilts for all the new granddaughters that are marrying her grandsons. My family is requesting that returned due to obviously not having any interest in them since she married a man a month after marrying my son.
Well, you're not entitled to that, Miss Tarras, unless Miss Johnson wants to give it back to you. Do you have that quilt?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Would you like to give it back to Miss Tarras? She would like it back.
I can send it back to her grandmother.
Fine. Perfect. What else?
A diamond necklace that I would like returned.
No, you don't get that back.
Okay. I bought that as a daughter-in-law, but...
Good. She was your daughter-in-law for about 15 days. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep going.
The expenses for the wedding.
I already told you. She owes you absolutely nothing. She's being gracious in returning a quilt that you say was made by a family member that you want back in the family. And that's only her being gracious to return that to you. So you're not entitled to anything else, Ms. Tarras. I'll prepare an order with regard to the quilt. Thank you very much. That's all.
Brenda Jones says ex-boyfriend Thomas Moses Jr. owes for bail money and a loan to retain an attorney. Brenda claims Thomas lied about being married.
Ms. Jones, you and Mr. Moses were in a relationship for a brief period of time, and according to your complaint, you made 2 loans to him.
That's right.
One involved some criminal restitution, and the other was a loan for an attorney so that he could start divorce proceedings. I assume that this is your wife.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are currently reconciled with your wife. And according to you, Ms. Jones did not make loans to you. These were acts of generosity on her part, and there was no expectation that she was going to be repaid. Is that right, Mr. Moses?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you leave your wife?
I left my wife November 22nd.
2005.
04.
04.
But I would watch myself on the 22nd of November. And when did you meet Miss Jones?
Met Miss Jones January the 2nd.
January the 3rd. Where?
I actually met her off the chat line.
So you started to communicate with each other on the internet?
Yes, ma'am.
That is not true.
Where did you meet?
My car was broke down when I was coming out of the tanning bed at a strip mall, and he was coming out of a little place called Deals. And I asked him would he give me a boost. He said, yes, I don't have jumper cables. I said, I do. And he asked me, was I married? I said, no. Are you married? He said, no. And it kind of
So that's how you met?
That's how we met.
And then you started to communicate on the internet?
No, we started communicating on the telephone.
Is that right?
Telephone come from the chat line, yes. And we actually met. That was our meeting place at Deals parking lot.
Did you first meet her at Deal's parking lot, Mr. Moses, when she asked you for a jumper?
I met her there, but I talked to her on the chat line.
Before?
Before.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you start speaking to her on the chat line?
Probably December 30th.
That is not true.
So you're telling me 3 days later you met her at Deals?
That's when she wanted to meet.
Right, it's interesting. Okay. Now, when was the first time, Miss Jones, you gave him money?
It was February the 23rd. I got a phone call in the middle of the night from he and his daughter on a two-way call stating he'd been arrested falsely for beating his wife up and wanted to know, could I come and bond him out?
Now, you had been dating between the 3rd of January and February 23rd?
Yes.
How much did he need to bail him out?
Initially, it was $10,000, so I needed $1,000. So I went to the bank and drew the money out. And when I got to the bondsman, they cut him some type of deal, and it was $837.
Well, you have to tell me about the conversation that you had. What did he say to you, and what did you say to him?
On that particular night at midnight, he asked if I indeed would come and bail him out. He would be able to pay me that Friday. I believe that was on a Sunday. And he makes pretty good money, and, you know, so I knew he could afford to give the whole $837 or a whole $1,000. I thought it was going to be $1,000 at that point.
Did he say, I'll give you the money on Friday?
Friday, yes.
Did he give you the money on Friday?
He said he was having some financial problem, gave me $400.
Did you give her $400 to Mr. Moses?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the $400 for?
It's for getting me out of jail.
So you acknowledge that this was a loan?
It wasn't a loan. I just told her I would give her $400 back. I mean, I appreciate it. It was my appreciation to her for getting me out. I mean, I just met her, you know, and it was nice of her to get me out of jail.
Just a second. When did you give her the $400?
That Friday, the following Friday.
Just a second. So you called her from jail and you said, could you bond me out? You didn't say anything to her about giving you back money on Friday.
No, ma'am.
It just happens to be that on that Friday you gave her $400.
Yeah, out of generosity, because she was generous enough to get me out of jail, so I told her I'd give her what I could Friday, and I could give her $400.
Oh, now your story's changed, Mr. Moses.
No.
Now you said that you told her you'd give her what you could on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, that's different from not saying anything to saying, I told her I'd give her what I could. And what you could give her on Friday was $400. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the next time Mr. Moses needed money?
It was about 4 weeks later. He told me he had a...
Just a minute. Between that Friday and 4 weeks later, you mean he didn't give you any more money?
He gave me $150, $50 increments.
When?
Actually, the first payment was $517.
No. Just answer my questions. Now you say that he gave you money in $50 increments, another $150. Was that over the next 4 weeks?
No. There was no money exchanged between the initial loan and the second loan.
That's what I want to know.
Yes.
So tell me what happened 4 weeks later.
Well, when I met him, he told me he was not married, okay? Or make that clear. Then I find out that he's got a lawyer that he's dealing with this no account, okay? So he says he's not helping him. He's not helping him to get his kids. His wife is not taking care of the children. He needed his kids desperately. And he knew I had some money saved up, okay? That's my first probably major mistake. And he asked me if I would help him get this new lawyer, put the $1,000 retainer fee. Once his divorce was final, his kids was in his home and they were stable. His financial situation was stabilized. Everything would be on target and he would be able to...
The check's in the mail.
Right.
So you gave him $1,000?
I wrote the $1,000 to the lawyer.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
She had pushed me into divorcing my...
Well, explain that to me. How did she do that?
Well, first of all, I never lied to you about being married. I told her I was married and had 4 children, and I was going to get a divorce. That was my goal, to get a divorce.
You were going to get a divorce because your wife was a very nice person?
I was going to get a divorce because we had some marital problems.
Well, some marital problems doesn't always talk about divorce, Mr. Moses. Did you actually come here thinking that you were going to run circles in this courtroom?
No, ma'am.
So you told Miss Jones that your wife wasn't caring for the children?
I did.
That you needed to get custody of your children?
I did. I needed them.
Because your children were at risk with your wife because she wasn't taking care of them?
My mother was watching them, actually, at my mother's house.
No, they were running back.
My mother was watching them.
Were they watching them because your wife has problems?
She was watching them because my wife was, yeah, she had problems.
Put your hand down. What kind of problems did your wife have?
She just had, like,
No, look at my face.
Oh.
What kind of problems did your wife have, Mr. Moses?
she had boyfriend problems. I mean,
Drug.
Did you tell the plaintiff that your wife had a drug problem?
yes, ma'am.
Karnak. Now, you told Miss Jones that your wife couldn't take care of your children because she was abusing drugs and she had boyfriends, and you needed to get custody of your children.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how does that translate, Mr. Moses, into she was pushing me to get a divorce from my wife?
Because she kept on me and telling me that she loved me and she wanted me to get divorced from my wife, and she would help me get my children and we could live together, and she kept forcing me to get a divorce.
Forcing you?
I didn't want a divorce.
What did you want? What did you want?
I wasn't clear about what I wanted at the time.
I have a feeling, how old are you?
I'm 44.
That is persistent state of your mind.
Absolutely.
Unclear.
Okay.
Now, you went back to your wife when, sir?
Went back to my wife on, I don't know.
Give me a month.
July the 22nd, just when I got a phone call from the wife.
7/22. Now, when you went back to your wife, sir, did your wife enter a drug rehabilitation program?
No, ma'am.
Then she's still using drugs.
No, ma'am.
Well, if one of the reasons you were having marital difficulties, sir, is because your wife was a drug abuser, and if she didn't enter a program, then she's still using drugs, unless you were lying to the plaintiff when you told her that your wife was a drug abuser. So which one is it? Were you lying to the plaintiff, or was your wife still abusing drugs?
She is not abusing drugs now. She's changed, or for whatever reason, I guess.
Miraculously abusing, sir?
Just marijuana and stuff.
No, what kind of stuff? Marijuana and what kind of stuff?
And, hydrocodone.
And what?
Hydrocodone.
What is that?
Lortabs.
Lortab.
What is that?
He told me some type of nerve pill.
It's a pain pill because she has lupus and she has a bunch of stuff wrong with her.
So she's not taking those pills anymore? She's not using marijuana anymore? Is that what you're telling me?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
So how come you decided to go home, sir?
For my kids, because things wasn't happening fast enough for me.
So you're home taking care of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you gave her $50 increments 3 times after the loan to the lawyer. What was that for?
It was for the jail.
It was for the jail?
Mm-hmm. Get me out of jail.
So you were just being a nice guy then? That wasn't a loan?
It was never a loan. I never asked Miss Jones to get me out of jail.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You asked her to get you out of jail because otherwise she wouldn't have known that you were in jail, sir.
No, my daughter called her.
How old is your daughter?
18.
How did your daughter find out you were in jail?
I called. I called my house because my house...
You called your house and you spoke to your daughter?
Mm-hmm.
And did you say to your daughter, call Miss Jones?
No, I did not.
Baloney!
I did not.
Listen, what's your first name?
Tommy. Thomas.
Slick Tommy, let me explain something to you. You don't take advantage of people and then just walk away. You clean up after your mess. You made a mess, you clean up after it. Bad enough that you involved this woman in your muddled mind, your 44-year-old bouillabaisse that you got going up there. But to take her money is unconscionable, sir. Unconscionable. You owe her $1,287. That's the remainder on the bail and the $1,000 for the lawyer that you, for some reason, decided that you didn't need because your children needed you, which is a very nice thing. You decided to go back to your wife for your children's sake. Very nice. I would suggest to you that it doesn't serve your children well if your wife is abusing drugs to live with her. And if your wife isn't abusing drugs, then you told this lady a fib. Because unless somebody gets into a program, if they are drug abusers, they don't stop. Goodbye. $1,287 is what you owe her.
Holly McLean says ex-husband Steve Reed owes for his share of their daughter's wedding. Steve says Holly went over budget.
Mr. Reed, how many children do you have, sir?
6.
Who is your oldest child?
Stephanie.
That's this child here?
Yes.
And your youngest?
Brandon.
How old is Brandon?
Brandon is 8.
You and Mrs. McLean were married for how long?
2 years, I believe.
And how many children do you have together?
2.
Your daughter is planning her wedding. And according to her, you and your former husband agreed to split the cost of the wedding. You did a budget. It was going to be $5,000. Mr. Reed, you agreed to pay for half.
Correct.
You did, in fact, pay $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
But the wedding went over budget, and you want him to pay half of the overage of $800.
Yes.
And Mr. Reed says, you went over budget, girls. That's your problem. I agreed to pay for half the wedding, which was budgeted at $5,000, and that's what I'm going to pay.
I agree.
Why did you go over budget?
Well, the reason we had gone...
Don't listen. Did you have a nice wedding?
Yeah. She had a beautiful wedding.
Beautiful wedding, beautiful bride, beautiful husband, nice-looking parents. Don't act... What?
I said yes, thank you.
Do you let him speak at home? Is that the reason he feels compelled to speak here? Because he's not allowed to speak at home?
Don't speak, honey.
She's cute. Okay, now getting back to you. Why did you go over budget?
Well, the reason we had gone over budget was we had it at the reception at a place that cost a lot more money than we had anticipated.
Now, when you realized that this was going to cost more than you anticipated, because you could have found a site that would have cost within the budget, but that's not what you really wanted, right? You wanted a different place. What did you do when you realized you were going over budget?
Well, Stephanie and I did a lot of emails back and forth because she actually lives in Utah. And I was planning the wedding here. And so I had told her that it looked like we were probably going to go over the cost of the wedding. And so she was kind of my in-between person between her dad and I, and had emailed to him and his current wife that we were going to be probably going over the budget.
Do you have an email from him indicating that's fine, I will pay half of whatever the overage is?
I do.
Let me see it.
This was actually an email to Stephanie.
That's fine. Well, this is not from Mr. Reed. This is from Mr. Reed's wife.
Right.
Do you know that your wife sent an email, sir, that said, listen, that's to Steph, and said, your dad and I don't have a problem if you go over the $5,000 sum, as long as your mom is willing to split the cost. Do you know that your wife said that?
At the time that email was written, no, I wasn't aware that she said that.
When did you become aware of this?
I became aware about 1 to 2 weeks before the wedding as we discussed the overage.
So your wife was speaking allegedly for you, which she can't do, but they acted upon this and then went over their budget. Do you understand?
Yes.
So it was really in good faith that your daughter went over the budget because she felt as if she was dealing with your wife, and your wife had the authority to say, okay, as long as mom splits the cost and as long as you're not going. So when you found out, Mr. Reed, about this email, what did you do?
Well, by the time I found out about the comment that my wife made, things had already become contentious because all along I had made it clear to Holly that I agreed to a certain amount. Not only that, in the beginning, Holly wanted to spend far less. I actually felt that we should spend more, and it was my suggestion to pay the $5,000. Then come
Is
back.
that true?
That's true.
That's a good guy.
So to then come back to me and then say that she wanted me to pay more money, and not only that, in the beginning when she wanted me to pay the overage, she wanted me to pay the entire overage, which she estimated would be $300 to $400. And like I say, it became contentious, and so I said, we're going to have to settle the matter after the wedding. I don't want it to affect the wedding.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Reed. So?
So?
Well, he did not agree to pay half of the overage.
I know he did not agree to pay half. But when I had sent them an email stating why we had gone over, and he even told me on the wedding day that he would help me pay the overage of the wedding.
Did you tell her that, Mr. Reed?
What I said is that I would look at the expenses and analyze them and get back to her.
And did you look at the expenses?
I did.
Anything there look untoward to you?
The invitations cost $280 more than we had originally was discussed with my wife, Suzanne. There was a DJ that I knew nothing about, and he cost $450.
Well, DJ is great at a wedding. Did everybody have a good time?
I think so.
Did you dance?
A little bit.
I didn't say if you danced well, Mr. Reed.
Yes.
I said, did you dance?
I did.
Other than the DJ for $450, was it originally anticipated that there was any music?
There was going to be pre-recorded music. Okay.
I have very little sympathy because if what we're talking about here is $800, I would have paid the $2 so we wouldn't end up here. So there wouldn't be any bad feeling. You probably already paid so much to raise your daughter to this point, right? Probably cost you a couple of bucks over the course of, how old are you?
19.
19 years? So I don't know whether I would make a big to-do. But let's hear. All right, the DJ, what else?
Let's see. There was a video that was done that was presented at the wedding. It was a nice video. It was $210.
A video of what?
They interviewed Stephanie and Tim about the way they met and things like that. And it was shown at the wedding. Yes, it was nicely done. But once again, I knew nothing about it. The bridesmaids' outfits, traditionally the bridesmaids pay for those.
That's absolutely right. Why didn't the bridesmaids pay for their own outfits?
Well, Stephanie and I discussed that we would just take care of that.
Well, I don't know. You can't do that and obligate him. Ms. McLean, first of all, it's not traditional.
Right.
And second of all, you can't be magnanimous with his money. What else?
The last one is traditionally a portion of the flowers are paid for by the groom or the groom's family. So the portion of those flowers, I have it listed at $248.
Can I say something about the flowers? I didn't feel we should ask Tim's family to pay for the flowers. They were actually having a reception in Arizona a week later, and they were paying for everything there for that reception. And they also paid for the luncheon, so I didn't feel it was right to ask them to also pay for the flowers.
Well, very nice. What do you want from him? He doesn't want to be used as a cash register.
Oh, I understand.
Which is, we'll make the arrangements, and you'll pay your half. And we don't have to consult with you. We're going to tell you this is what we want to do, and if it goes over, it goes over. Well, that's unreasonable.
Well, there's more to it than that.
You may explain it to me. But did you call him and tell him about the DJ before you hired the DJ?
No.
Did you call him and tell him that you were going to pay for the bridesmaids' dresses before you agreed to pay for them?
No.
Did you call him and tell him you decided not to ask the bridegroom's family for the flowers?
Yes, we did tell them that.
When?
Before the wedding, when he had stated that they thought that the groom's family had to pay for part of the flowers.
And what did you say? You told him no.
I didn't agree with that.
Fine. That doesn't mean he's not entitled to say, that's fine. You want to pay for that? Pay for it.
Okay, but there's more to it where we had the reception. We actually wanted to have it at my parents' house so we could cut the costs. Well, Steve didn't want to have it there.
I don't blame him.
The cost would have been a lot less.
Miss McLean, what you just said to me has absolutely nothing to do with what I've told you, which is you cannot use your former husband as a cash register. He's a person with opinions, and as long as you want to spend money and you want him to reimburse you for the money, he has the right to an opinion. You may not agree with that opinion, and if you don't agree with it and you want to spend the money, you spend it. What he's complaining about is you didn't discuss it with him, and that was wrong. I just want you to understand that I don't think your father was wrong. I think your mother was well-intentioned, but I don't think your father was wrong. And I've been involved with lots of weddings. And I wouldn't think of saying to my ex-husband, you're going to pay for half, and I'm going to decide where it's going to be, what kind of music we have, what flowers we have, what the invitations look like, and I'll send you the bill for half. Right?
But we did...
Flattened out on the floor. And I wouldn't blame him. So, in case there's any bad feeling, I don't think your father was wrong. And Miss McLean, if you wanted to do these things and you chose not to get an agreement with him before, you pay for it yourself. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Elizabeth Sperry says her ex-husband's girlfriend, Wendy Shively, had her falsely arrested for stalking. Wendy says she had no other choice.
Miss Sperry, the defendant is your former husband's current girlfriend.
That's correct.
This is the former husband.
That's also correct.
How long were you married?
10 years.
You have 3 children.
Correct.
And am I correct that your husband has primary physical custody of the children?
That is correct.
As of when?
Actually, since from the time we separated, because of the fact I left the marriage. 4 years.
And you see the children how often?
Every Monday and Tuesday after school, every other weekend.
How far do you live from your former husband?
54 miles.
And who do you live with?
I live with my husband.
And you've been married for how long?
9 months now.
Your claim is that Miss Shively had you falsely arrested for stalking.
That is correct, yes.
And you want to be compensated. And Miss Shively says that she feared for her safety because of your behavior, and she had every right to have you arrested. So I'm coming to you, Miss Shively. Tell me what caused you to file the complaint, and I would like to read the complaint and see the police report that was generated by you.
There's some other documents.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. On May 19th, Miss Sperry, that was the first contact I had with her, and it wasn't really contact. I noticed her following us. We were picking up some leaves. A neighbor had cut his trees down so we could see to drive around the corner. So we were out putting those into the truck to take them to the dump, and Miss Sperry kept driving back and forth. This was on a Thursday. It was not her day with the kids.
May 19th.
May 19th.
Right.
On May 19th, 10 a.m., I left my home to go to a doctor's appointment at where I have been going to the doctor for about the past 10 years. I arrived at 10 minutes after 11, saw the doctor, got the prescription filled, drove down 2 main roads in the neighborhood to go to the back side of it, where it's a large neighborhood, but it's got very main roads that people use all the time. To go to the back side, to go to the Wendy's drive-thru, get a grilled chicken sandwich, and go to work. At that time, I was in sales, and I worked in the immediate area.
Did you drive by their home on May 19th?
No.
Yes, you did.
When I got to the back of the neighborhood at a traffic light, I noticed a burgundy van in front of me. It's windowless. And I looked, and he's got plates that say on them. I thought, oh, crap, I'm right behind Jeff. I couldn't see in that van. There is not a single window on it.
Just a second. So what you're saying is you live about an hour away, and on May 19th you were in the vicinity of their home. Okay, next.
But she had driven by 6 times before she was behind us in the burgundy van.
I got it. Go
Okay.
ahead. Keep going. What's
Okay.
next?
There were several other incidences. There was a June 7th incident. I had been taking her daughter, Allison, who's 11, to my tanning salon, not to tan, but she has some scars on her legs, and there's a spray type of tan you can use, and it covered them a little, so she was a little more confident. I never asked Beth. Jeff had given me permission to take her there, and Beth had gone into the salon, raised a scene. When I went in the next time, the ladies told me about it. I felt terrible, that I felt like I stepped on her toes, so I called her. And I said, listen, we need to talk. I didn't mean to do anything against you. I was just trying to help Allison, and is there a way we can do this together? And we met in a parking lot. I gave her my cell phone number at that time because her and her ex-husband don't get along at all, thinking that perhaps I could keep them from fighting in front of the kids, arguing back and forth, because I care about the kids. Started out, she would call asking for little things like to help with the kids, and that was fine, but then it turned into bash Jeff sessions. How bad he is, how he's going to beat me in 2 years, how he's charming at first, but he beats women, and I didn't want to listen to that anymore. And I told her to stop contacting me. There became an incident.
Okay. Now let's go back to the incident at the tanning salon. What happened at the tanning salon?
On the weekend prior to June 7th, my daughter happened to mention that she had gone to the tanning salon with Wendy, and I said, oh, and I knew she was self-conscious of the scars. I understood completely. But I didn't really know who signed the paper, and in my mind, I didn't mind that she went. It wasn't a problem, so I did go by the tanning salon. I said, why? Just to see who signed the paper. I was just curious. It did have her signature, and I said, you know, she's really not her parent or guardian. She really shouldn't have signed that. So I signed one. I filled out consent forms for both of my daughters. I didn't object. I thought it was very nice that their father had met somebody finally after 3.5 years, and the girl spoke very nicely about Ms. Shively. I was thrilled that, you know, they had somebody to enjoy their time with as well.
That's very nice, but then I don't understand why you were curious to see who had signed the consent form.
Because
then I don't understand why you were curious enough to make a trip to the tanning salon to see who had signed the consent form, if it was a good thing. If their father has primary physical custody of the children, so certainly he can consent.
Oh, certainly.
And he can delegate someone else to consent. So I don't see, despite the fact that what you're saying now is all peaches and cream and all light and fluff, why you would go to the tanning salon and say, no, I'm going to sign a consent form.
I just, as a parent, just offered it because, again, I didn't want it to come back. But at the same time,
It was
I did.
stupid.
Yeah, it was. And again,
Okay.
I was only, I was on my way to pick up my
You
children.
were tweaked. You were tweaked and peaked. Did your husband receive custody of these children with your consent, or was it a court order?
No, it was with consent because he is the only one who lived in the school district. I lived 3 miles away, and we did not want them to be moved. So, no, back in May of '03, we consented that he would have primary physical for school enrollment purposes.
So when you moved an hour away, you made no request and move with you?
No, I have not. Not at this point. I have.
Stand up a second. I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Mr. Corey, am I correct that there has been no request by your former wife to change the custody arrangement?
She's tried in a roundabout way of doing it.
How?
Before Father's Day this year, that's one of the things that Wendy had a problem with her. She basically filled out some...
Okay, then let Wendy tell me. Why don't you sit down? What happened on Father's Day?
She showed up prior to Father's Day at my apartment. She called me and told me she had just dropped off her kids. I never gave her my address, mind you. She had just dropped off her kids.
How did you get her address?
I did not have her address. I just knew that she lived in an apartment complex on the back side of the neighborhood.
How did you know that?
My children talked to me, and the only thing is they said, Wendy lives where Dad used to live. And I said, where? And they said, the apartments. And I said, oh. He had moved out to the apartment complex 4 years prior, and that's all I knew.
When she called and said she was coming over to bring something, I said, okay, I'll meet you. I didn't want her in my apartment because I was there by myself. So I asked her to meet me in front of the leasing office, well-lit public place. She supposedly had some document that changed the whole custody agreement between the two of them to a 50-50 arrangement. But she didn't give me that document. That's what she was bringing for me to take to Jeff to try to convince him to sign.
You have a copy of that document?
She does. I have it here. This is the actual printed copy, and I wasn't trying to change anything. The only thing I was interested in doing was starting the weekend of Father's Day, which happened to fall on my weekend. He could actually have the children that weekend, and we would alternate from there.
What's the support order in this case?
The child support order from May 2003. That's never been.
In what amount?
$473 a month.
Are you paying that?
It's not for me to pay. It's for him to pay me. Back when we separated, when we had 50-50, he made 3 times the money I made. So for a year and a half, when we had...
Just a second. I'm talking about right now.
Right now, there is no order in place for me to pay him. Since I have the children half of the week, and then on the weekends...
You don't have the children half the week. You don't have the children half the week.
I carry their health insurance, and again, he makes 3 times the money I make. So
I don't care.
There has not been a change with regard to that.
Well, there should be, sir.
I know there should.
Okay. Well, what is the September 2000, October 2004 order with regard to visitation?
I have those.
Well, I want to see it because that's what the court's affirming.
Yeah, we basically went to court 5 times.
I want to see the last order. Do you have it, sir?
No, I don't, but I think I could shed some light on this for you.
Please, stand up, because that's what I want to see. This last order here merely says that the order of October 22nd is modified to provide for overnight visitation, alternate weekends, Friday to Sunday. What you gave to her contains 7 things, including holidays, major parts of the summer, etc. Now, you want to shed light? I'm more than happy to hear you.
This is what happened. We basically had 50-50 custody with our kids. In our original paperwork, I put that if she moved more than 30 miles away from where we both lived, which I knew she was going to be moving out to the Fredericksburg, Culpeper area. She's had the same boyfriend even while she was still living in my house. That's kind of what happened here. She moved out there without telling me a word. When I found out, I went back to court. They basically said, the girls can't live out there with you. I ended up getting custody of my kids full time. And basically what she has now is she'll pick them up from me, drive them around in circles till she brings them back at 7 o'clock at night. It's a total fiasco. My kids are getting dropped off who knows where, and she doesn't even spend the time she has with them. That's a serious problem. They are 12, 11, and 7. My daughters are preteen, and they think they're going on 20. It's a problem. Their problem with me is I have rules. When they're with their mother, nobody's around to see if they're weighing the rules or not. You know, best thing that ever happened to me and my daughters, and I just think she's jealous. All I want is to be left alone. I never wanted child support from her.
Okay,
And
well,
I
you
can't
can't be
even
left
do that.
alone, sir, because you picked this lady to be the mother of your children.
I understand
And she's
that.
going to be the mother of your children forever.
But should I be penalized for being stupid at 24?
Well,
For
listen.
the rest of my life?
Listen, should your children be penalized?
Absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying to you, sir. They have a mother. And for better or worse, they have two parents. It's not a good thing for them not to feel loved and supported by both parents. Now, children, in situations like this where you live far away from each other and have to live with one parent or another, they're living with you.
And
That's
they're happy
great.
doing it.
That's great. And I can understand her perspective of she would like to have her children with her. She made her choices 4 years ago, and unfortunately, now she would like to have her choice and the children too. That's not going to happen. Do you understand that?
Oh, I understand.
Good. You can't have your choice, your heart, and your children. You're left. That's it. That doesn't mean that she's going to leave you alone. She's not going to leave you alone, because that's what happens. She's not smart enough to leave you alone. She's not smart enough to say, this is it, this is the story, and she will continue to fight you for your children. Children will get older. You'll make a rule for your 15-year-old. You won't like a boyfriend. She'll say, I'm going to mommy. Get over it. It's going to happen. That's what happens when people get divorced. Now you can sit down. Now, tell me the rest of the stalking, madam, so that I can make a judgment with regard to this case.
Okay.
And move on.
The following at the tanning salon, the following me in the car, there were, all the instances are listed there. I don't remember them all now. Factored in with, I was afraid all the time because she didn't represent herself as a stable, sane person to me. And I don't mean to be mean, but that's what it was. So I was
Give me an
afraid.
example.
Trying to sneak over that custody agreement, she showed up with the custody agreement and then wouldn't even give it to me. She asked for my email, saying it wasn't dark enough for me to read. Could she email it? She was trying to gather more information. I handed her over my email address, though, thinking, great, it'll stop the phone calls, and she won't be bashing her husband. She'll be sending me email. But I'm afraid of her. The final straw was Father's Day when I picked her children up Father's Day evening at McDonald's. Was afraid they would get into it because it was a bad day for everybody. Picked him up. She came storming over to my car, yelling, give me Taylor's cell phone. His daughter had a cell phone, which her father took away because she was using it to deceive and lie to him. He gave Beth plenty of warning that he would take it away if he ever saw it again. She told her to sneak it in the house in her backpack and keep it on vibrate so her dad didn't know. So she was storming over at me, got right in my face. I rolled up my window and drove away. But I was very afraid of her at that time, and that's what precipitated the police report.
Anything else you want to tell me?
I would like to tell my side of the story because
I'm ready.
this is just totally made up. I did meet Ms. Shively for the first time on June 7th. She did call, asked if we could talk, indicated she didn't want to have any problems. I agreed. Talked for about 20 minutes, offered me her cell phone number. It was very nice. So I left and got the girls, and my daughter saw her at the pool standing at the fence with her son, so they walked over to say hi. I took a glass of water to want a cup, and Mr. Corey pulled up and said, make a new friend. I'd pass on that, and I left with my middle daughter. 5 minutes later, he called me and left me a very nasty email saying she sees right through you, that sort of scenario. Just basically saying, while I have my children with me, I'm stalking her.
Your children aren't with you when you have them.
On 5:30, I picked up the girls on 5:29.
Tell me about the incident with the cell phone.
With regard to the cell phone, I had given my daughter a cell phone back in October. I showed up to get her. Evening, I got a very nasty email from him telling me that he doesn't want me to come by anymore to get the girls to meet him at McDonald's. That's fine. At 6 p.m., I showed up at McDonald's. Ms. Shively was there to get the children. I got out of the vehicle with my daughters, walked to her car, and I said, did you bring the cell phone with me? I had left a message on Friday at his house saying, I'd like to get my cell phone back. Did this in front of 3 people. It was not nasty. She said, no, I don't have it. And I said, well, can you go get it? And she said, no, he says he'll give it to you when you go to court. And I said, what does assault and my cell phone have to do with each other? She said, I don't know, don't put me in the middle. And I said, fine. And I walked away, got in my car, I drove to the police station, which was a couple miles away, and I told the officer, he's got my property, I've been going through this kind of abuse for 4 years. I want my cell phone back.
Where were your girls when you went to the police station?
They had just left with Miss Shively, so I went by myself.
So you dropped the children off and you went to the police station?
Correct, because I did want my property returned to me. He had no right to confiscate it.
Just a second. You had no property.
I had a cell.
No, dear. You gave the cell phone to your daughter. Listen to me. That's a gift. Okay. It's not your property.
Okay.
Okay. So let me tell you, I have to make a judgment as to whether or not your actions, just listen, okay, whether your actions were sufficient to cause her to feel fearful enough to seek a protective order. And I'm going to refer to two objective things that you did, because I don't know, I wasn't there. I couldn't tell, based upon what either one of you tell me, whether or not you were making calls to her and saying bad things about him. I can't tell whether or not you were, in fact, driving back and forth. There's no videotape of you driving back and forth, but you did two things that suggest to me that you're more angry than you seem. I'm speaking. That you're more angry than you would seem to want to convey to me. One, for no apparent reason, you went to the tanning salon because you were curious about who signed the consent. There was no reason for you to be curious. Your former husband has physical custody of these children. He can do whatever he wants to do. I assume it was in the children's best interest. As a matter of fact, you agree that it was in the children's best interest, but your nose was tweaked as to who signed the consent. And not only did you go there, but once you saw that she had signed the consent, you said to them, she's not their mother, I'm their mother, give me the forms, I will sign the consent, because that's what objectively you did. The second thing you objectively did was, after you dropped the children off in June, with regard to this cell phone, instead of just saying, listen, I'm not going to get myself exercised over this cell phone, I'm going to the police. To the police? Over a cell phone? And you knew why he had taken the cell phone away from her. He took the cell phone away from her because she wasn't doing the right thing. Miss Shively probably had good cause to file a complaint against you. In any event, your complaint for false arrest is dismissed. Case is dismissed. That's all.
What is your excuse? You may step out.
Juanita Nuno is suing her daughter, Carolyn Torres, for a loan to bail her grandson out of jail. Juanita says she may lose her home to foreclosure.
Miss Nuno, this is your daughter, and according to your complaint, you made your daughter a series of loans. She hasn't paid you back. Your daughter says, yes, it's true that you gave her some money. They were gifts. You do that to all your relatives, and you're singling her out for repayment of these gifts because she had a fight with your other daughter. Is that right, Miss Torres?
Yeah, that's right.
What did I just say?
I owe her money, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They're gifts. To me, they're gifts. I heard what you just said.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Did you have anything to drink today?
No, I don't drink.
You use any drugs today?
No, I don't.
Well, then explain to me what your problem is, Miss Torres.
I don't have a problem.
Who is that?
My kid's father.
Do you live with him?
When I want to, I don't know, when I want him there, I guess.
Step up, sir. What's your name?
Anthony Torres.
How long have you been with Miss Torres?
About 20, 21 years, off and on.
Do you work?
Yeah.
Your wife suffer from a disability?
No.
Well, is there something wrong with her today? She seems to be out of sorts today.
Well, because I don't think she should be suing me, that's why.
Why did you agree to come here?
I don't know.
Did you discuss coming here with your wife, Mr. Torres?
Yeah.
Why did she come?
Because it's a lawsuit and she needs to come.
Juanita Nuno says her daughter, Carolyn Torres, owes for a loan for bail. Juanita says she posted her grandson's bond after he was arrested for burglary.
Now, if you've been with Mrs. Torres for 20-some-odd years, then you are the father of this young man who got himself into trouble last year?
Yes, I am.
And the first loan, according to you, Miss Nuno, was for bail for your grandson.
Yes, it was.
What was he arrested for?
Jack broke into a school.
So he was arrested for burglary?
Yeah.
Did you call your mother and ask her for bail?
Yeah.
What did you say to her?
He called her first, though. He called and I called after.
Who called?
I think my son called first, and then my niece called me, and then I called her back.
And when you called your mother, what did you say to her?
Bail him out. I don't have the money.
And what did she say to you?
She said, what happened? And I explained to her what happened. That Jack broke into a school. So can you bail him out? She does everybody else, so I figured she'd do him.
Why didn't you bail him out?
Like I said, I don't have the money.
Well, how do you support yourself?
By his child support checks.
Well, you live together. Why does he send you child support checks?
Well, when I want to get, I'll call him. He doesn't really live with me.
Miss Nuno, you really expect her to pay you back?
Yes.
From what?
She applied for Social Security, and she was supposed
What was the nature of her disability?
She has arthritis in the spine. That's inherited. It comes down the line. All of us have it. So she applied for Social Security disability.
Yeah.
And they were going to grant it to her. All she needed to do was take a physical exam.
So you expected her to pay you back out of her disability from the government?
Well, not only from that, but from my son-in-law. And I believe him because he never lies.
Well, did he promise to pay you back?
He said he would pay me back. He would pay the bonds people, so that would be good enough.
Is that right, sir?
Yeah, that's right.
So why didn't you pay her?
I intend to. I just haven't had the chance to do it.
It's a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. When are you going to do it?
As soon as I can.
So after they didn't pay you the $1,600, 6 months later you gave her another $2,000. You want to tell me why?
Because I beat her daughter. That's why. That's exactly what happened. She lent me money to move out because I beat her daughter for stealing my child support check.
No, Judge Judy.
Yes, that's what happened.
I billed Anthony out in November.
You got $1,600, Ms. Nuno. What's the $2,000 for?
For getting me out of her house. I was staying with her for 2 months.
Why were you staying there for 2 months?
Because my stupid son, we lost our house in Redlands, so I had to go move in with her because of what he did.
How many other children did you move in with?
5.
How old are your children?
15, 14, 10, and 3. And my son, Anthony, that's 18. He's 18.
You have a 3-year-old child?
Yes, I do.
How did you, with your terrible disability, have a 3-year-old child?
I guess. I don't know how. Well, how else am I going to have a kid?
Judge Judy, you wouldn't believe it. You will not believe this. I had her put in a convent in Mexico. I had tried to educate her day one, and you know...
That's what she went wrong when she sent me to Mexico. She never should have ever sent me to Mexico when I was 10 years old. Never.
Do you have anything you want to say to me, sir?
He didn't say nothing.
No.
I'm not speaking to you.
Well, he's not going to say anything.
I'm not...
He'll still won't say nothing, though.
I'm not speaking to you.
Well, I'm speaking to you. I'm telling you, he won't say nothing.
Listen to me very carefully, Miss Torres. You've already shamed yourself in front of a lot of people.
I don't care.
You have a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old who can all understand everything that's going around them. I feel very sorry for them, and I guarantee you that if you live alone with your children now, I'm putting in a call to social services to go and monitor your home if these children are in fact living with you. Are they living with her? Are the children living with her?
Yeah.
Well, somebody's going to monitor it. You're not there, is that right?
Most of the time, no.
Listen, Miss Nuno, there is no question in my mind that having spent 10 minutes with your daughter, you had no reasonable expectation that that $2,000 was going to get repaid to you. Maybe the bail money, because you say that you had confidence in your son-in-law, and he says that he agreed to pay you back and he just hasn't gotten around to it yet. Mr. Torres, you have to find something to do with your time other than make children, sir. You have enough children. You have 5 children. And based upon what I've heard, you're not doing too well. And neither are your children. So you have to find some other way of occupying your spare time, like getting a second job, so you can support everybody, so they can all live together and not scam the government anymore. Do you understand me, Mr. Torres? This is all one huge scam you've been living with her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. That's all. Step out.
Alan Winter says ex-boyfriend Rolando Conejo owes for a truck loan and for assaulting him during a dinner party.
Mr. Winters, you and the defendant were in a relationship for a couple of years, according to what I've read, lived together, and then the relationship ended, unfortunately, unamicably. It is your claim that you loaned the defendant some money to buy a truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And then it is your claim that he assaulted you.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that he paid for the truck through services.
Correct.
Took care of your home, took care of things for the 2 years that you lived together. Also paid money towards your mortgage every month that should be counted towards the truck debt. And this truck debt came about as a result of a loan that he had with someone else that he had been involved with. And when the two of you became involved, you said you don't want any strings attached, so you paid off the truck loan to the other person, thereby making him only beholden to you for this debt.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, when I met Alan, he offered, and that was his idea. He said, Rolando, I can help you with this. As long as you take care of the Chihuahuas, help me remodeling the house, because...
Just a second. How much did you pay for the truck?
I paid $7,538 for the truck.
And how much did the defendant pay you back?
He, on June 1st, he gave me a check for $3,000.
What was the $3,000 for, sir?
For the truck.
Fine. Leaving a balance of $4,538. Because if he told you to take care of the Chihuahuas in exchange for the truck, you wouldn't have given him $3,000, right?
Right.
It's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel.
He's thinking that's a lot of Chihuahuas.
Your Honor.
What?
He also said, if you help me to remodel the house, that would contribute towards the loan. So in my mind, I always understood that, okay, I'm going to take care of the Chihuahuas, I'm going to help in remodeling the house.
Just a minute. Forget the Chihuahuas. What did you do to remodel the house?
We demolished the back of the house. That was hours of labor. And I also helped him to title a new bathroom and kitchen.
How many hours of labor did you put in the back?
Well, throughout the 2 years, I would say more than 100 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, originally, there were two loans. And last Tuesday, we went to small claims court in Utah, and he was given financial credit for the work that he did on my house.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. And I have evidence to prove that.
Okay, so that was one loan, but you've already resolved the issue, therefore.
Yes, ma'am.
With regard to any work that he may have done to pay down a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
So why are you bringing it up again? You only get credit for the work once, sir.
I don't know. He's the one that is doing all this right now. And we had a fight the last time, and...
You can only bring up the work once. Now, you want to go into this assault, sir?
Yes, ma'am. On December 1st, 2006... I was having friends over for dinner. I was having Mike and another friend over for dinner. Mike is my witness.
Mr. Winters, this assault happened December 1st, 2006.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you and the defendant separate?
In July of 2006.
Your Honor.
In July, shh, put your hand down, you'll have a chance. So this assault allegedly happened after you separated?
Yes, ma'am. We remained friends.
Fine. December 1st, 2006. I'll hear you.
Okay. He dropped the dogs off because he provided dog care for me. But the Chihuahuas were owned by both of us. So he came over at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, dropped the dogs off, went up to a job interview, came back to my house at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were talking, and I asked him if he was drunk. And he said, no, I'm tired. I haven't been drinking. I knew that he had been drinking, so we went to get groceries because he was cooking Costa Rican dinner for our guests. And on the way to the grocery store, I told him, I said, Rolando, I know you're drunk, and I know you lied to me about it. You don't need to lie to me about being drunk. I knew he was going through a hard time or whatever. So when we got back to the house, it escalated into an argument, and he started to approach me. And the police had already been involved once before, and so I put up my hand and I stopped him. I said, don't come near me. If you come any closer to me, I'm going to call the police. You know that you'll be arrested immediately. So he didn't, and then I said, I want you to leave my house. You're not to stay here for dinner. I don't want this argument to happen in front of friends. And he refused to leave, so he sat on my couch for hours. He said nothing. So I sat on a chair opposite him. And I was reading or whatever. And all of a sudden, he just pops up. And he's very animated. And he said, okay, we need to cook dinner. This was a few hours later. So he starts cooking dinner, and I go in the kitchen, and I'm chopping things up for him. And I told him, I said, you have to promise me that you will not drink anymore tonight, and that you will not argue with me or bring up an argument while my friends are here. And he promised. So Mike and my other friend came to the house, and Rolando was very animated. He was a very gracious host. His dinner was delicious, and we had a really nice dinner. Well, after dinner, we were playing a game called Shut the Box, and it requires each player to have 10 $1 bills. I knew Rolando did not have that money, so I offered to give him 10 $1 bills earlier, and that's one thing that caused an argument earlier because of the money issue. So we were in the front room, and he would come in and out, and he was very pensive, and he would sit and watch us, and then he would disappear. The game becomes very, very rambunctious. We were screaming and yelling and having a good time and laughing. And we were also drinking cocktails. And the next thing we know, Rolando showed up in the living room wearing nothing but my bathrobe. He had gone into my bedroom and taken off all his clothes, and he had his underwear and my bathrobe on. And he came in immediately, started verbally attacking me, and Mike and I watched him, and we didn't comment. We said nothing. My other friend is a person that I also used to date, and so Rolando started to argue with him, and my other friend started to defend me. After a while of hearing Ms. Conejo just scream and yell, the three of us went into the kitchen to get away from him. And so...
And left him?
Yes, ma'am, in the living room. He followed us into the kitchen. He picked up a glass of water, and he went to throw the water on me, but he hit my other friend, who's not here today. And then before I knew it, he was just hitting me in the face. And I have pictures of my face
I'd like to see
to show. I also have a letter from the Victims Resource Center from Salt Lake City. So Mike and my other friend grabbed Mr. Conejo and held him down, but he wouldn't stop fighting. There was blood all over my kitchen. I went into the bathroom to see what my face looked like because I'm a flight attendant. They won't allow me to fly when my face is cut up. And it came to a point, Rolando would not stop. He just would not stop. And so my friend picked him up physically and threw him off my front porch. He landed in a pile in the snow. And my friend wasn't even sure if he was hurt because he landed on a sidewalk in the snow.
He was wearing his bathrobe at the time?
He was wearing my bathrobe
Your
at the
bathrobe.
time. And so a few minutes later, Mr. Conejo once again jumped up and took off. And that's why I didn't call the police.
Okay, Mr. Conejo, let me hear what happened on December the 1st, if you remember.
First of all, I want to mention that we were still in a relationship.
Wonderful. What happened on December 1st?
And December 1st...
Tell me how he got all cut up.
And December 1st, he called me and said, Rolando, come over. I want to invite you to have some cocktails to drink. And I went over to drink with him. And then he's like, we can invite some people over to play games. And that was Mike and his other friend. And Alan and me and his other friend, we were drinking. I had been in this relationship for 2 years. It was very dysfunctional. Alan would come from flying, and he
I want to hear about December 1st.
Well, we were drinking, and Alan punched me on the face because I told their friends that I had to put this facade pretending that we were in this good relationship. So he punched me in the face because I said that, and then he started attacking me, and we got in this fight. His friend...
May I see the photographs of your face, please?
I don't have a photograph, but
he punched you?
He punched me first.
Then did you... I'd like to see the police report.
I don't have one, but this is a pattern that Alan has.
I don't want to hear pattern. I want to hear the police report.
In May, we had a fight.
I don't want to hear May. I want to hear December.
I don't have a report on that.
Where did you go after you ran away?
I didn't run away. He kicked me out of the house.
Where did you go?
I went to John, that is my witness.
John, stand up. John, you have a last name?
Crapo.
Mr. Crapo, you remember December 1st?
I do.
I'd like you to describe the defendant's condition when he came to your house. First, how did he get there?
He said he walked. It's about
Fine.
3 blocks away.
Then what was he wearing?
A bathrobe.
And how did he appear to you?
Very distraught. He was crying. He was bleeding.
Listen to me. Was he drunk?
Yes. That's it.
Okay. You have a drinking problem, sir? You have an alcohol problem. You know, I've been in the business for a long time. I can tell alcohol problem from a mile away. You have to stop drinking. He may be able to handle it. You can't. You have to stop drinking. Are you living with this gentleman now?
I am.
You know he has to have help in order to get rid of this problem. Unless you have a problem, too. I don't know if you have a problem, too. But he has a problem.
I understand what you're saying.
Have you suggested to him that he get some help for his drinking?
No.
Why not?
I'm not sure it's to that point.
It's that point. He needs help for his drinking. He may be a functioning alcoholic, but he needs help for his drinking.
As does Alan, I believe.
Not the same way.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you. Bodies are excused. You may step out.
Sharon Martino Napolitano is suing the mother of her daughter's boyfriend, Deborah DeSimone, for damage caused to her Toyota Camry while the car was in her possession.
You two lovely ladies are neighbors, and you each have a child. You have a girl. You have a boy. They're dating each other.
Yes.
This is your complaint. You allowed your daughter, this young lady right here, to use your car. She was using your car one day to take Miss DeSimone around to do some chores.
Correct.
And that wouldn't have bothered you necessarily because she's the mother of the boyfriend, right? But then Miss DeSimone asked if she could borrow the car herself because she wanted to go food shopping, right?
Yes,
Food
to pick
town.
up a couple items.
And your daughter allowed her to drive the car. The car was damaged. You want Miss DeSimone to pay for the damage to the car.
Absolutely.
Miss DeSimone says she took the car, went into Food Town. While she was in Food Town, somebody must have hit your car.
Correct.
Right?
That is correct.
So it's not her fault. That's what you're saying.
That's correct.
We'll see. What year is your car?
It's a 1995 Camry.
How long have you had it?
Approximately a year.
So you bought it secondhand?
Yes, ma'am.
How many accidents have you had?
I've had one other one where I was hit from behind at a red light.
So you had a rear end damage to the car? Bumper? Or?
Bumper.
Bumper. Only the bumper?
Only the bumper.
Was the car fixed?
No.
On September 6th, what kind of damage was done to your car?
It would be the right quarter panel.
You have a photograph?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's before and after.
Ooh. That's a bad one. Okay. So, you still dating each other?
Yes.
Okay, this is not going to be painful. Believe me. We're going to use the but-for rule, Miss DeSimone.
Okay.
But for the fact that you borrowed the car and took it to Food Town to go shopping, this wouldn't have happened. Unfortunately, you took the car. You didn't have her permission to drive the car. You had her daughter's permission to drive the car.
Actually, there was a couple things that happened prior to that. While I was in the car with her daughter, it was a very rainy day. Her daughter was driving the car. The car was hydroplaning a lot, and she became very nervous and asked if she pulled over if I would drive. I said, no problem, if it's safer. We completed our mission. We did proceed home. Asked if she didn't mind if I ran back out to just pick up a couple items at the Food Town. That's when all that began, and the police report states differently, if you'd like to see it, that he even stated, the police officer, that he saw prior damage on the car.
You mean this prior damage?
No, other damage.
We're not talking about other damage. We're talking about this damage.
But she's saying that there was only damage to the bumper, and according to this, it states that there was...
What difference does it make? This damage was not on the car, madam, when you borrowed it.
No.
That's all I'm talking about.
I don't believe so.
I am only talking about... Well, you don't miss this damage.
No.
Ma'am,
No, you don't have to speak. It was going to be easy. Now it's not so easy. For the fact that you borrowed the car, took it to Food Town, the car would have been parked in her driveway. If the car was parked in her driveway, the same driver that hit her car from Food Town would have had to look for it.
Can I please say
Stop.
something?
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
And she's taking your word for the fact that you don't know how this accident happened. But it looks as if she had hit somebody else's car, unless she, I don't know how you can contort yourself to do this kind of a damage to somebody else's car. But you had the car, but for the fact that you borrowed the car, it wouldn't have had this kind of damage.
Correct.
This damage. Good. Then we don't have a problem. What do you want?
Okay. She just got done stating that the car was hydroplaning earlier, okay?
It doesn't make any difference.
Excuse me. They made it home safely. She has a Jeep Cherokee parked in the same parking lot that she could have used her own vehicle to go to the store. There is no reason to take my little car back out.
Let me ask you this question. Now you're getting angry, and you already won. So you have to go, find your center.
I've been trying to do a lot of it. I've been trying to find a lot of my
center and say, it's over.
But I would have never asked her son to use her car.
Listen to me. It's a car. She's responsible. Done. Romeo and Juliet here. We're going to leave here happy. I suggest you do the same. How much did it cost to fix your car?
The estimate is $1687.98.
That's a pretty cheap estimate for this kind of damage.
I think so.
It is. Anything else? Romeo, Juliet. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1687.98. Thank you. That's it.
David Davis claims ex-wife Jamie Leathers falsely accused him of harassing her.
Mr. Davis, the defendant is your former wife, and it is your claim that she filed a false accusation against you, and she was seeking to get a restraining order against you. You were forced to hire an attorney. The case was subsequently dismissed. You want her to pay your attorney's fees and damages.
Yes, ma'am.
Your former wife says the accusations that she made in the application for the protective order were true, and she says that you were threatening and abusive, and she's going to prove that to me. You have one child together who is now 5.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been divorced since when?
Divorce was final January 2006.
And when did you separate?
June of 2004.
Reading between the lines of your complaint and the defendant's answer, there has been some acrimonious stuff going on between the two of you, at least in part owing to the fact that you are in substantial arrears in your child support.
That's her attention, yes. Yes.
I'm reading between the lines,
Okay.
sir, because I'm an experienced family court practitioner, that if you're divorced, that means you don't like each other anymore. Are you remarried?
No, ma'am.
Are you remarried?
Yes, I am.
So, she's not mad because you have a life and she doesn't. She's happy. She's married. Are you happily married?
Actually, my husband and I are separated.
Not happily married.
But we are best friends, and I see him about 3 times a week.
All right. But she's not mad at you because she doesn't have a life, and you do. She's mad at you, sir, because you don't pay regular child support.
Ma'am, may I?
Yes.
I agreed to pay child support from the day I left of $600 a month. I've been paying that up until I got laid off in June 11th of 2006. I phoned Miss Leathers. I told her I was laid off, that I could not afford the that I could not afford the $600 a month. We could handle it one of 2 ways. Once I received what my unemployment benefits would be, I would give you a set amount every month until I done a job.
When did you find, listen to me, when did you find another job?
January.
January of what?
Of this year.
What kind of work do you do?
I do aircraft fueling technicians. I refuel aircrafts. I work on fuel cells of aircrafts.
How did you support yourself between June of 2006 and January of 2007? Who were you living with?
My girlfriend Patricia, and I was receiving unemployment benefits.
So you had no rent?
Correct.
How much were you sending the defendant between June and January?
Well, Your Honor,
that requires a figure.
They were taking the money directly out of my unemployment benefits. When I told her I could not afford the $600 a month, I told her that I would go back to family court and I would file a petition for modify my child support.
Why should you get a modification?
I'm no longer making the money I was making before. Nowhere near it.
Then get 2 jobs.
I have 2 jobs. Your Honor, I have my daughter 12 to 14. I have my daughter almost 50% of the time.
That is untrue.
If you interrupt him again, it's not going to go well.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You agreed to pay her $600 a month. Your divorce was final in January 2006. According to you, up until January of 2006, you were paying $600 a month because you separated in 2004.
Yes, ma'am.
All of a sudden, divorce is final, and 5 months later, you say, I can't pay you the $600 a month anymore. Now I need a modification.
I was laid off from work.
That's fine. You can be laid off from work. That doesn't mean you can't work. When you have children, you have to say, I don't care what I do. I drive a cab, I collect cans, I go to a car wash, I do whatever else I have to do to contribute to the support of my child. Who do you work for?
I'm a school teacher.
She teaches, she contributes to the support of the child. I have support of the child, and if I can't do it fueling planes, I'll do it doing something else until I can get a job refueling planes. Now, having said that, sir, all I said to you was that's the reason for the acrimony, because you haven't been paying child support regularly. That being the case, she's going to tell me about why she filed this protective order and when. When did you file this protective order, Ms. Leathers?
The middle of November 2006.
And on what basis did you file the protective order?
As he said, he and I separated in June of 2004. By the first week of July of 2004,
I'm not interested in anything that happened in 2004. Nothing.
Okay.
I'm interested in anything that happened the 3 months immediately preceding November of 2006.
Good.
When you filed for a protective order.
Okay.
Period.
August 10th, 2006, I went to pick up my daughter. My mother was with me and my stepfather. He dropped off my daughter and he said, your game is over, Jamie. I've had a private investigator follow you and I have your bank account information. And I looked at my mother and I said, these are the kinds of things I'm talking about. My mom said, you take your daughter, you keep walking. So my stepfather and I walked.
Well, I don't know what he meant by that. What did you
I didn't
mean?
know what he meant by that
What
either.
did you mean by that, sir?
Your Honor, the man she's been living with, the man she married, this is the whole root of the problem we've been having. This man she met on the internet and moved out here from Chicago. I had concerns about the welfare of my daughter. She's allowing this man to take my daughter to the public restroom. She's
Your
allowed
Honor?
this. She allowed.
Listen to me. Listen to me. That's not your business.
It's my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter.
It's not, listen to me. It's not your business, just as it's not her business that you're living with this lady. And the one thing we both care about is our child. And neither one of us would do anything to the child that would cause the child harm. Unless, of course, you have proof that somebody is causing them damage. If she complained to me that she didn't like the fact that when your daughter was at your house, you let her crawl into bed with you and your girlfriend, I would say, that's none of your business. And I'm saying to you, your concerns about somebody that she met, whether she met him on the internet, or she met him in a park, or she met him at McDonald's, are none of your business. Now,
Your Honor.
all I want to know is, what games were you talking about, sir?
I'm talking about the games where she has accused me to this man. Since she met this man, I have wanted to meet him. The three of them were at a restaurant. My 2-year-old daughter says she has to go to the bathroom. This man gets up and takes my daughter to the public restroom. I asked Ms. Leathers, why is he taking my daughter to the restroom? I'm saying, you're the mother. That is our daughter.
That's none of your business.
I believe it is, Your Honor.
I'm telling you.
This woman allows some man she met on the internet to move out here to Chicago and take my daughter to the restroom?
Her husband.
No, at the time it was not her husband. The only reason they got married, they married 4 days after this restraining order was dismissed, because I raised these same issues in the courtroom that day, and they got married 4 days later.
And what happened, Mr. Davis, when you raised the same issues? What did the judge say to you? Did the judge say, oh, my God? Oh, my God, we best call Child Protective Services immediately? Is that what the judge said to you?
No, ma'am. The judge did not respond.
Excuse me?
The judge did not respond to those.
That's right. The judge did not respond. Listen, you don't have control anymore, sir. If you believe that someone is doing something that is not in your child's best interest and is harmful, abusive, or neglectful, your responsibility is to go to court or call Child Protective Services if you want to play that game. I would discourage you from doing that, but you don't start up with her. Just as she would have no sympathy from me if she said, I don't believe that my daughter has any right to stay at their house. She does stay at your house, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
And occasionally crawls into bed with you?
Yes, she does. Sometimes she does.
And you sleep with her?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And she's your girlfriend? Inappropriate?
I don't believe so.
Oh, well, who set you up to be the moral monitor?
Well,
You're a moral, just a second. You're a moral monitor? You have now a 5-year-old child who knows that you're not married to this lady, that you share a bed with her. I don't know what you wear when you go to sleep, and I don't know what she wears when she goes to sleep, but she crawls into bed with you. And if she said to me, I'm not letting my daughter go there anymore, if he's going to let my daughter crawl into bed with her, I would say to her, it's not your business. She loves her father. This is her father's significant other. I don't like significant others. I think he should be either married or not. But it's the 21st century. I'm coming into the 21st century. It's not your business. And I say the same thing to you. It's not your business.
I respectfully disagree.
Well, I don't give a rat's behind, sir. That's why I sit here. That's why I sit here, and I have been in this business for 40 years.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that.
40 years. And I'm telling you, you got to let go of it. Now, I want you to tell me what you meant when you said the game is over.
I meant that for the last 2 years, she's been putting my daughter in situations where my daughter has no business being involved with.
Your Honor, I'm a school teacher. I'm a
Listen to me.
kindergarten teacher.
Listen to me.
The
Listen
fact
to
that
me.
she moved in with a man and didn't know, that says a lot.
Listen to me. I'm getting the gist of it.
Okay.
I want to know what he said to you that inspired you to file for a protective order.
The private investigator I found alarming.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking somebody's following me
Fine.
around. And
Private investigator, he's allowed to hire a private
Right.
investigator if he wants to.
And then I get phone messages as well as phone calls, calling me names.
You say that in your answer that you saved those.
Yes.
I'd like to hear them. Give it to Berg, please.
That's it.
Okay, so you have one message.
I have message after message after message, but that was the one that I thought pretty much wrapped up. His anger is about the child support.
Well, yeah, so he called you a foul name.
Right.
Called
And
you a foul
I
name.
would like to say
Put
that...
your hand down, madam.
I'm sorry. It's just there's been many
Put-
messages.
Listen to me. Put your
Okay.
hand down.
Okay.
If that's the worst of it, it's not terrible.
Right.
Not nice, but not terrible. Go ahead. Keep going.
It's this vibe, I would say, as a woman, that we get our intuition. He makes me feel unsafe and uncomfortable.
Can I see the application that you filled out for the protective order?
Sure, and I can also give you, I have been keeping a log of the harassment.
When did you hire a private investigator, Mr. Davis?
Actually, Your Honor, I didn't hire a private investigator. The information that I was talking about was information I received from her mother and her father. They didn't want...
Just a second. Did you tell her that you had hired a private investigator?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
So you lied to her?
Yes, I did, in order to keep her mother and her father out of distance, because they're the ones who told me this information.
What information, sir?
That basically the man that she was living with was someone she didn't know from Chicago, and moved him out here to live with her and my daughter.
You're talking about something that happened how many years ago, sir?
No, but yes.
How many years ago?
It happened 2 years ago, Your Honor, but everything that happened after them getting together, him taking my daughter to the restroom, him taking my daughter to the locker room of the Y and giving her a shower.
That never happened.
Yes, it did. My daughter's swim class, yes, it did. This is when I finally said, you know what?
You can't take a girl, and a man cannot take a girl into the shower.
Miss Leathers, listen to me. Listen to me. Somebody who sleeps with his daughter in a bed with his girlfriend has no basis to complain about anything.
First of all, I get off at 3 o'clock in the morning. By the time I get home, she's already getting up for work.
Mr. Davis, you're backtracking, sir.
How is that?
There is no question in my mind when you told me that you have your daughter 50% of the time.
And that's not true.
46%.
46%.
That's not true. It's 25%, Your Honor.
And the court order is right here. The court order is right here.
If you interrupt him again,
I'm sorry.
I'm throwing you out.
Okay.
Do you understand?
I understand.
I'm throwing you out. There's no question in my mind, Mr. Davis, that if your daughter spent either 25 or 46% of the time in your home, that she was crawling into bed with the two of you. Now, you don't consider that wrong. That's your prerogative. You keep your nose out of her business. That's what I'm telling you. Listen, very, very lucky that you got rid of him.
I know.
You're very lucky you're very lucky that you got rid of him because he's this kind of thick. You got him. He's yours.
And he's a very nice man, Your
He's
Honor.
a control.
He's a very nice man.
He's a very nice man. He is a controlling. You're interrupting. He's controlling, and he doesn't see the inequality of his positions. He has to let go. He has to say, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander, and I have to rely on the fact that my wife, ex-wife, who was a school teacher, who teaches children, who is an educated woman, wouldn't do anything to place my daughter at risk.
But she
and
has.
he's not. So have you.
How?
I just told you how.
This is a woman I've known for years. This is a man she met on the internet who did not know.
Oh, you're an idiot.
Did not know.
We've been
You're an
together
idiot.
2.5
You know
years.
something?
She did not know this man.
You know something? I got it. The truth is, his conduct is such that I understand why you felt threatened.
Right.
I feel that today he is unyielding and controlling, and I understand why you sort of dismissed, sir. That's all.
जी तो गाइज कैसे हैं हम सब। आज हमारे पास है फ्लैमिंगो की ड्राइंग और हम इसमें आज कलर करेंगे, तो हमारे साथ रहेगा। शुरू करते हैं। जी तो गाइस आज कि हमारा कलर कंप्लीट हो चुका है। अगर हमारी वीडियो आपको अच्छी लगी हो तो हमारे वीडियो को लाइक, सब्सक्राइब एंड शेयर कीजिएगा।